college football prime time from the South Bay, Stanford, California. The day began with game day in Auburn, Alabama. It ends with 19th ranked Stanford hosting Wake Forest from the ACC. Welcome to beautiful Stanford, California. I'm Carter Blackburn with former All-Pac-10 quarterback Brock Heward. Thanks for staying up late with us for this one. Stanford versus Wake Forest. A week ago, Jim Harbaugh's Stanford Cardinal, an impressive 35-0 win over UCLA. And the young quarterback Andrew Luck adding to his impressive resume.
And that's the adjective to use. He is very, very gifted. Everybody sees the impressive nature of the skill set. You see the arm, the legs, the prototypical size. Carter, the more we're around this program and around Andrew Luck, you start to appreciate the intangibles, and for me, more than anything, his smarts, his ability to play the game between the ears. Jim Harbaugh has a very deep pro playbook, and Andrew handles all of it flawlessly.
We knew that Andrew Luck was going to be a big part of the Stanford team this year. The question mark was the defense, but the Cardinal defense has played well through the first 2 weeks.
And Jim Harbaugh brought in an old pal, Vic Fangio, a 27-year vet of the NFL, and what he has done is made them very sound fundamentally. They've given up just one touchdown through 2 games, and I think even more impressive, just one trip into that red zone. And maybe a perceived weakness coming into this year, the secondary, well, that's turned out to be a strength. They're making plays on the back end, led by Michael Thomas, the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Week, just last week against UCLA.
The Wake Forest offense has been explosive so far in 2010, but a big change tonight for the Demon Deacons. We'll tell you about it next. In Stanford, California, the Cardinal trying to pay back Wake Forest after the Demon Deacons, a come-from-behind win when these teams met for the first time a year ago in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Jim Grove bringing Wake Forest to the West Coast for the first time in Demon Deacon football history. It has already been a historic year for the Wake offense.
What a fantastic coach. The run he's had here over the last decade at Wake Forest, goes to 3 consecutive bowls, misses out last year with a lot of close games. He's taken a lot of young kids and gotten them off to a good start, but what a test tonight. The longest road trip in the history of the university to come all the way out west to face Stanford tonight.
So the potent Wake offense through the first 2 weeks against the stingy Stanford defense. We should point out for Wake Forest that they had Presbyterian and a Duke team with the soft defense, but they have put up impressive numbers against Jim Harbaugh's bunch, who shut out UCLA last week at the Rose Bowl.
A tremendous effort down there, and as we just talked about in the opening, they're playing so fundamentally defensively and very, very physical to match their offensive counterparts.
Late night from Stanford, California. The Cardinal wearing black jerseys for the first time against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Devon Brown brings it out of the end zone and ends up at the 20 anyway. So we will see the true freshman Tanner Price at quarterback tonight for Wake Forest.
Just 19 years old. He was starting at Westlake High School down in Houston, Texas just last fall. A lot of poise. He talked to the coaching staff at Wake Forest, and much like Andrew Luck, who he's going against tonight, a really bright kid, has handled all the checks, all the protections, everything they've thrown at him. He has grasped very, very well.
Adams gets the first down carry. Brock, what can we expect from the Wake offense?
Right in the middle of that, Russell Needham, their center, is their best player, their captain. Expect a lot of motions, a lot of trick plays tonight, a lot of movement from the Demon Deacons.
And they will quick snap as well as they do on second down. Price keeps it. Fua makes the tackle after a gain of a couple. They will vary those tempos throughout the night.
Yeah, I would expect, and we chatted with Steve Labotsky, the offensive coordinator. He said, I'm going to handle a lot of the checks from up above. I want to play fast. And you hear Coach Labotsky rave about this true freshman, just loves his intangibles as well.
3rd and 5. Audible from the true freshman Tanner Price. Blitz coming. Price picks it off. The ball was tipped. Incomplete, intended for Marshall Williams. So a 3 and out on the opening possession for that explosive Wake Forest offense.
And that's just the clock going a little bit fast for that freshman. They tried to throw a timing route outside, got the one-on-one matchup. I expect Stanford to test this young quarterback with lots of man-on-man looks. Just threw it a little bit too early.
Shane Popham will punt it away to Doug Baldwin, as the Stanford defense holds on its first trip. Baldwin calls for the fair catch and makes the grab just inside the 40-yard line, so the Stanford offense takes the field, led by the talented redshirt sophomore from Houston, Texas, Stratford High School, Andrew Luck.
Tremendous decision maker. The accuracy and the velocity, they will pop out to you right away. You understand why Todd McShay has him right near the top of the draft board, 6'4", 235. If you've not seen him play, what you're going to be most pleasantly surprised by is how well the big fella moves.
Now in his young college football career, 19 TDs, just 4 INTs. Hand off to Stephon Taylor on first down for a gain of about 5 yards. So, Brock, what can we expect from the Stanford offense?
It's a big, powerful group up front. You return 4 starters. They like to run it right at you. A lot of power, a lot of downhill ISO, as you just saw, a traditional tight end, and that fullback in Owen Marisic. And then they love to play action pass after all of that heavy run game.
Second and 5, 2 tight ends shifting for Stanford. Luck's first pass attempt of the night is complete to Ryan Whalen near a first down. Whalen, who torched Wake Forest last year. Let's take a look at the Wake D.
And this defense last week gave up the big play. 3 plays of over 50 yards to Duke. The defensive end, Kyle Wilbur, is their playmaker. He's got to get a hit or 2 on Andrew Luck tonight. And how about the Haynes brothers? Not very often do 2 brothers get to line up right alongside one of another and expect to see just a little bit of brotherly love, a little bit of brotherly fighting out of those 2 tonight.
48 points allowed to the Duke Blue Devils a week ago as Luck goes from the pistol look. Play fake. Has the Wake defense faked out, completing to Doug Baldwin for another Stanford first down. Luck starts off 2 for 2. Okoro makes a stop.
One of the things you can expect from Brad Lambert, the defensive coordinator from Wake tonight, you're going to see some movement and some blitzes. You see that defensive line slanting there, and excellent fundamentals once again from Andrew Luck. But also I would expect to play a little conservatively with a true freshman, A.J. Marshall, starting at corner.
Welcome to those of you who've been watching Texas versus Texas Tech. It's late night from Stanford, California. Carter Blackburn with former All-Pac-10 quarterback Brock Heward. 19th ranked Stanford trying to make it 3-0 against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons from the ACC. The redshirt sophomore quarterback for Stanford, Andrew Luck, leading the Cardinal on this opening possession. A 2 for 2 start passing the football for the sophomore from Houston, Texas. Luck completes again for another first down on 2nd and 6. That's Stephon Taylor out of the backfield, finally dragged down by Kyle Wilbur.
In the first play of the season, you actually saw Chris Owusu, their big play guy who's been out the first 2 weeks. He lines up out there at split end. He affects the defense. Take the easy completion, and that is a good sign if you're a Stanford fan. You've got Notre Dame, you've got Oregon and SC the next 3 weeks. Expect Owusu to work himself into some repetitions tonight and hopefully be full speed for them next week.
Cardinal head coach Jim Harbaugh very tight-lipped about Owusu's status, but he makes his first appearance in 10. On first down, Luck will scramble for a gain of about 5 near the 15-yard line.
And already, if you've not seen Stanford this season, one thing that will be represented very quickly is how dominant they are up front. I really believe this is the best offensive line in the Pac-10. I know the folks up at Oregon return everybody. They play the game a little bit differently, but as far as pass protection, downhill run game, Jim Harbaugh's got 4 returning starters that really dominate the line of scrimmage.
Wake Forest went 3 and out on its first possession. Stanford trying for points. First time the Cardinal have the football. Out of the eye. Quick hitter. Whalen on the near side. Can't slip out of the tackle from the true freshman corner, A.J. Marshall, who's playing in place of the injured Josh Bush.
It looks like Whalen is slow to get up. That's a pretty good play by a true freshman. Wake Forest tonight, because of all that heavy run game, the downhill action inside, they're going to have to commit bodies around that line of scrimmage. You're going to have a lot of one-on-one matchups. That's a good sign for defensive coordinator Brad Lambert that his true freshman matched up against a fifth-year senior can make that play in space. Ooh, that does not look good on that left elbow, unfortunately.
Ryan Whalen, who had a terrific game against Wake Forest last year, 123 yards, a pair of touchdowns, and a Stanford loss at Wake Forest, walks off the field.
Arm just get planted, and that elbow bends backwards, and that's unfortunate. That's a big loss. And that's a powerful man. That's a guy that bench presses 225 pounds for 25 reps. Unfortunately, all that pressure collapsed that elbow. We'll see if he returns tonight.
On 3rd and 1, give to the fullback, Marisic, the two-way player. He'll play fullback and middle linebacker for the Stanford Cardinal, and he dives for a Stanford first down.
And that's not just a gimmick either. It's not an occasional rep. It's not Mike Vrabel of the Patriots lore coming in a goal line package and playing tight end. Truly, Owen is in uncharted waters. He's playing every snap of fullback, and last week it was about 80 snaps and every snap an inside linebacker. And I like what Jim Harbaugh said. He's kind of a case study. If anybody can do it physically, he can do it, but they're being very careful with his practice time and just how to handle his body.
And a GPA near 3.9 to boot. 1st and goal. Luck, a perfect 5 for 5 if he swings that one for his Stanford touchdown. Chris Owusu into the end zone as the Stanford Cardinal welcome back their big play wide receiver.
You're going to see just quick screen action. I talked to you about that offensive line. How about the right tackle, Derek Hall, 53, throwing his 300-pound frame. And you also saw Kobe Fleener. No team will play more 3 tight ends in Stanford. Do a tremendous job blocking on that quick screen.
Andrew Luck, a perfect 5 for 5 on the opening drive. Ryan Whalen leaving the field for Stanford. Chris Owusu back on the field and into the end zone as 19th ranked Stanford off to a 7-0 start. Stanford coach Jim Harbaugh said Chris Owusu, his junior wide receiver, was a game-time decision. That decision was a go, and he's into the end zone to make it 7-0 as the Cardinal try to pay back Wake Forest for a loss last year in Winston-Salem.
And that's the good news. The bad news is we saw Ryan Whalen walk off the field after looks like hyperextending that elbow. Don't know if he'll be back. But good to have their big playmaker. If they've got one guy, as they get ready for a really tough stretch of national games that they want to get going, it's Chris Owusu, been out most of camp.
Brown takes it in the end zone again. It'll be a touchback. Let's go back to the Owusu touchdown.
I called this the best offensive line in the Pac-10. Watch redshirt sophomore right guard David DeCastro. You simply can't do it any better than that. That's driving Hunter Haynes 8 yards into the end zone. Hunter, you got to get off of a block, but it's awfully hard to do. That is one of the most dominant physical downhill. I love the identity of that group. Really sets the tone for that offense.
Wake went 3 and out, first time on offense. Now the true freshman Tanner Price, who becomes just the 3rd true freshman to start in the Football Bowl subdivision. Play fake on first down. Price completes to Chris Gibbons for the first Wake Forest first down of the night. Thomas in coverage.
There you see a little bit of the arm strength of the lefty. Watching him on film, had a breakout game last week against Duke. 3 touchdowns. You really can't throw it any better than that on the move. Athletic kid, ran the spread down at Westlake High School in Houston. Very comfortable out here, very poised. As you can see on that throw, he can put some RPMs on that football.
Wake fakes a reverse. This is Brown on the keeper, picking up just a couple of yards. And a nice tackle from Chase Thomas, outside linebacker for Stanford.
You see a multiple of weapons tonight. Wake Forest knows they can't just line up against Stanford's 3-4 and run it right at them. You're going to see receivers come in motion. You're going to see a speed option, a midline option, a triple option, a zone read. That whole playbook wide open for the true freshman quarterback.
Pressure coming. Incomplete on the quick hitter to Chris Gibbons. So with the pressure on Tanner Price, he throws it into the dirt. Marisic and Thomas both there.
Saw the third down pass in the first series on the 3-and-out. He just rushed it. And that's what's often going to happen to you in your first start. As composed as you can be, that heart rate is still beating in your shoulder pads. It's still faster than any rep you've ever taken, especially on the road. Got to find a way to slow your clock down.
Tanner Price checks to the sideline for 3rd and 9. Play clock winding down. Stanford pressures again. Thomas just misses Price, allowing him to throw downfield complete. Chris Gibbons makes the grab into Stanford territory. There's a flag near the line of scrimmage.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 11 on the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator at Stanford, is going to dial up a blitz a week. He's going to look at different matchups. He brings the edge pressure there. You see Michael Thomas, but the lefty avoids it. And that's Shane Scope. He's been out the first 2 weeks. Staph infection in his knee, getting some of his first reps of the season. He's geared up. He wants to hit somebody, but you can't hit a quarterback that late.
How about the poise of the true freshman Price with the blitzer bearing down on him to step up and convert. 1st and 10 from the 27 as Tanner Price looks to the sideline again. Play fake. Time to throw, nobody open, so he tucks it and scrambles for a positive 7-yard gain before Owen Marisic brings him down.
Well done, and sometimes it just takes one play. You get that one play, the play breaks down around you, the blitzers come, and then all of a sudden you say to yourself, I can do this. I know I could do it at home last week against Duke, one of the worst defenses in college football, but that was a 3rd down play. I just kept alive, and I fired it down the middle, and sometimes you instill that confidence in a young guy, and you just watch him take off.
Call it a 5-yard gain, making it 2nd and 5. On the reverse, Gibbons has another Wake first down, slipping out of a tackle and into the end zone. The Demon Deacons convert a 3rd down and 9. And 2 plays later into the end zone.
Jim Harbaugh's not seen many touchdowns, just the 2nd touchdown of the year against this defense. Misdirection. You're going to see it all night long. You're going to see lots of motions. You're going to see receivers running the ball like Devon Brown did there. They've got to confuse. They went into this game, coaches clearly telling us confusion, deception would be a big part of the evening's play.
An explosive offense in the first 2 weeks for Steve Labotsky and the Wake Forest offense. 3-and-out the first time, but into the end zone. Even 7-all, 7 to go in the first. 7-all between Stanford and Wake Forest. This is the Demon Deacon offense that Wake fans were expecting after back-to-back 50-plus point performances. Tanner Price leads the touchdown drive for the Deacs.
Jim Harbaugh making the point to us yesterday that Jim Grove and company have been at this 10 years. They know how to run this system, even with freshmen coming in. Stanford's had 5 days to prepare for the multiple looks, and you saw Wake Forest take advantage on that drive.
An uncharacteristically young team for Wake Forest in 2010 as well. planning on redshirting Tanner Price. Instead, he's out there as the starting quarterback in just the 3rd week of the year. Amanum fields the kickoff, and now Amanum breaks free across the 50. Uswe Amanum, the redshirt freshman. Jim Harbaugh told us yesterday he has been so explosive on offense. We have to have different ways for him to touch the football. Back there on kick return, and he brings it all the way to the Wake 38.
And you saw special teams coach Brian Polium, the slap on the helmet. He likes this. Just like that touchdown, that quick screen we saw when those Stanford guys lock on you. And that's some of the man-on-man mismatches tonight. Just the size and strength differential of this Stanford team. Wake Forest better get off blocks both on defense and special teams. They're going to give up a lot of big plays tonight.
57-yard return from Amanum sets Stanford up. 1st and 10 inside the Wake 40. Luck gives to Stephon Taylor. A gain of about 3 on 1st down. Matt Woodleaf makes a stop. Opening drive, Andrew Luck goes 5 for 5 in leading the Stanford touchdown drive. He threw a pair of touchdowns last week against UCLA. Looking long on 2nd and 7. He has him in. It is caught for the touchdown. It's Chris Owusu again. 5 touchdowns a year ago. He missed the first couple of weeks, and already a pair of touchdown grabs tonight.
I know there's a lot of rocket scientists that come out of Stanford, but it's not hard to figure out if you have a true freshman corner making his first start of his career against your most explosive playmaker. Well, I'm going to go one-on-one and throw a go route right over the top of him.
Andrew Luck now a perfect 6 for 6 with a pair of touchdown passes, both to Chris Owusu. Could it be a late-night shootout in Stanford, California? There's a chance in a few years you're going to look back at these 2 quarterbacks, Tanner Price and Andrew Luck. And remember that game you saw him play when Wake Forest went out to Stanford. Both excellent young quarterbacks, and Andrew Luck showing why he is so highly regarded. A perfect start.
And Luck maybe not used to the speed of Owusu. He had him by 4 or 5 steps, but the coaching point there, don't overthrow him. You've got a guy that open against a true freshman. Put some air on it. Let him make a play. Not the best pass you're ever going to see Andrew Luck throw, but a touchdown's a touchdown. And what a dilemma Wake Forest is in. You got to put the bodies around the line of scrimmage to try to stop all that power run and ISO run. And when you do that, you leave your corners in one-on-one situations, and it's just a delicate line. The defensive coordinator, Brad Lambert's going to have to work all night when you're dealing with that quarterback.
How about Andrew Luck now in his career? 21 touchdown passes, only 4 interceptions, and a 14-7 lead for Stanford. Devon Brown fields it near the 5, eludes the first defender for Stanford, and then he's wrestled down near the 30-yard line. Alex Debniak makes the special team stop.
Well, Wake Forest is used to this kind of game, right? Just a week ago, 54-48, one of the highest scoring games in the history of the ACC. So Jim Grobe says, fine, we're a little bit undersized on defense. Kind of like my little true freshman quarterback, and if we've got to score 54 to win, well, first one to 54.
54-48 a week ago, and an ACC win over Duke at home. Josh Harrison at tailback. The handoff, however, goes to Chris Givens, and he is dropped behind the line by Shane Skove. Welcome to those of you who watched Notre Dame losing at Michigan State in dramatic fashion. We're in Stanford, California. It's Wake Forest from the ACC traveling over 2,300 miles to play against 19th ranked Stanford. The Cardinal trying to go to 3-0 and avoid the upset from the ACC's Wake Forest Demon Deacons. The true freshman quarterback, Tanner Price, completing on 2nd down. Michael Thomas makes the stop after Marshall Williams makes the grab. Brock Huard, an impressive start for Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck.
Can't do it any better. 6 for 6, couple touchdowns. Wake Forest has got no pressure on him whatsoever. Chris Owusu is back, scored both of those receptions. Nice to have their biggest playmaker offensively. Wake better find a way to convert this third down and gain some of the momentum that Stanford's had offensively.
A touchdown drive the last time Wake had the football on 3rd and 3. Pass complete. Chris Gibbons turns the corner and has a Demon Deacon first down. Sherman on the stop.
Nice job out there by Devon Brown. Just a little bubble screen. You got to get blocks from those receivers. We saw Owusu on the touchdown pass. Watch Brown just give up the body. Just throw that body in the ankles, create some space, especially on a critical third down, to move those chains.
Gibbons on the Wake Forest bench for 1st and 10. Price will keep it himself and pay the price after a 3-yard gain as Delano Howell puts a hit on it.
Seen these quarterbacks in college football. Denard Robinson, the best at it right now, running all of this zone read. They take a beating. And Price, if you are just coming into our game, a true freshman, about 190 pounds, out of Austin, Texas, Westlake High School. He's going to be a sore guy tomorrow. He's going to take some shots from this physical Stanford defense.
Option on 2nd and 7. Pitch to Devon Brown. Turns the corner for a gain of 1, maybe 2 on 2nd down. Sione Fua, the nose tackle, in on the stop. Three touchdowns already between Wake Forest and Stanford. Wake went 3 and out on the opening drive, and then Gibbons on a 22-yard touchdown run. Stanford's Andrew Luck perfect. 2 TD passes, both to Chris Owusu. 3rd and 5 now for Wake Forest.
Stanford showing a 3-down little nickel blitz look here, trying to figure out, is Tanner Price exactly where it's coming from?
Back off in coverage. Price tucks it, and he is dropped near the line of scrimmage on 3rd down. Kaiser and Thomas, the outside linebackers, get to him.
And that's one of the challenges, playing the position, making your first start on the road in a hostile environment, is getting to your 2nd and 3rd reads. You saw there his first read wasn't there, and with more experience, he'll eventually be able to get to his 2nd before he tucks it and those eyes go down. Typically, the more repetitions you get, the more patient you become in that pocket.
Shane Popham will punt it away to Doug Baldwin. But first, a flag. False start against Wake Forest. That'll back him up 5 more.
Out of the snap, false start, number 40 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th down.
Let's try this again. Popham punting to Doug Baldwin. Fair catch called for inside the 20. Baldwin makes the grab for Stanford. Well, thanks for staying up late with us tonight. Carter Blackburn with former Washington quarterback, all Pac-10 quarterback Brock Huard. Mike Bellotti is on assignment tonight. 14-7 start here for Stanford against Wake Forest. What does this game mean to a 19th ranked Stanford team who's looked very good in the first couple weeks, including the blowout win over UCLA last week?
Coming off that shutout and losing to Wake Forest a year ago, and talking to Jim Harbaugh and this staff, they remember that feeling and what that loss was like when they dominated the first half. To lose to Wake Forest, every one of these weeks is an opportunity game for Jim Harbaugh. Yes, there's some bigger ones on the schedule with Notre Dame and USC and at Oregon in a couple weeks, but this is a chance to shine on national TV.
Luck throwing, completing on 1st down. Griff Whalen out of bounds as we check in with Wendy Nix. Notre Dame gets Stanford next. The Cardinal have a tough stretch coming up in 2010. Here it's Wake Forest from the ACC who beat Stanford a year ago. Wilkerson in a tailback. No gain on first down. Brock, you alluded to it. Jim Harbaugh said they could still really taste that Wake Forest loss from a year ago.
You look back, and they really controlled so much of that game. They had the ultimate weapon a year ago. Number 2 in the Heisman race was Toby Gerhart. They were up big in that game and just wore down in the second half. And Andrew Luck had just made his 3rd start. They really felt like physically they were the better team, just couldn't finish it on the road last season.
Drop for Luck on second down, setting up a screen. Taylor bobbles. It is incomplete. That is the first incompletion of the night for Andrew Luck after a perfect start. Oh, people have been counting Jimmy Johnson out, but does he have a run in him for a 5th straight Cup title? The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup begins with the Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire on ESPN tomorrow at 1 Eastern. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at noon on ESPN2. Gordon, Harvick, and Johnson again. There at Stanford Stadium, 3rd and 10. After Andrew Luck's first incompletion of the night, he goes to the shotgun. Over the middle. What a grab by Owusu. Can you understand why Stanford was anxious to get Chris Owusu back?
And especially when Ryan Whalen goes down on your first drive. You just see the different gear that Owusu has. Going to run that post. This is a big-time throw. There's NFL people here tonight. You want to throw that skinny post in that window between the corner and safety. Luck drills it. You see the body control of Owusu to stretch out and make a big 3rd down conversion. How about Stanford this season? Nearly 55%. Just another dominating stat on 3rd down.
Into Wake territory now on 1st and 10. Play fake. Luck looking long. Just incomplete down the seam, intended for Doug Baldwin.
And that is a throw that you just don't see Andrew Luck miss very much. And Baldwin, his legs and it's got tangled up there. You're going to see here, this just very simple little deep go route. And that's safety. When you're running the ball, you see the eyes and the feet get flat, you're dead. And that is a throw 9 out of 10 times that Andrew Luck and Doug Baldwin are going to connect on. They hit it earlier this season, an 82-yarder against Sacramento State. But that time, legs, he stumbles just a little bit, does Baldwin, and Luck could have put just a little bit more air.
On second down, Anthony Wilkerson, the true freshman from Tustin High School in Foothill Ranch, California, part of the running back by committee for the Cardinal.
Yeah, you're going to see a bunch of them. We saw Amanum on the kickoff return. We've seen Taylor. You're going to see Tyler Gaffney, number 25. Jeremy Stewart, their big physical senior running back. He's more than likely out for the 2nd consecutive week, so they can have upwards of 5 different backs carry the ball.
Jim Harbaugh says he would love to see someone emerge, but not sure if someone will, pointing out it took Toby Gerhart a couple of years to get the #1 job. He ended up 2nd in the Heisman voting a year ago. He's a Minnesota Viking. 3rd and 11. Luck completes. Griff Whalen short of the first down, at least from the spot. Mack makes the stop. Daniel Mack, another of the freshman defensive backs for Wake Forest. Kevin Johnson, a true freshman. A.J. Marshall, true freshman. Daniel Mack, a redshirt freshman. So the young gunslingers, Andrew Luck and Tanner Price, off to a hot start.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Kingsford Charcoal. The best thing about watching the game at home is that you own the concession stand. The ultimate tailgate starts with Kingsford. Tailgate at home.
Plenty of time to tailgate today on the campus they call the Farm. Leland Stanford Junior University. Leland Stanford Sr., the railroad magnate, decided to turn his horse farm into a world-class university after his son passed away at the age of 15. And it certainly is one of the best campuses anywhere around the country, I think, Brock. What do you think?
And they've got themselves a first-class football team this year. Very strong up the middle. You've seen that already displayed tonight in a franchise quarterback in Andrew Luck.
4th and 1 here. Wilkerson is the back. The give is to the fullback, Marisic, for a Stanford first down. The two-way player at fullback his more natural position, picking up a first down for the Cardinals.
Yeah, for 3 years and 39 starts, he was plugging the way for Toby Gerhart, and this year he's got a little bit more love. Touchdown last week, 5 touchdowns in his last 14 carries for Marisa.
Taylor, the tailback, on 1st and 10 behind Marisa. Luck tries the hard count. Taylor takes it, bounces it out. Right side, Taylor with a stiff arm for another Stanford first down, just shoving Kenny Okoro out of the way.
You know, the one thing I love about Jim Harbaugh yesterday and talking about all this ISO and all this power, and was it intentional? Was it all this spread system around college football? He said, you bet it was. I love to have a fullback, love to have that tight end. How about in that case, 3 tight ends? You had James McGillicuddy, the number 74 in motion there at 6'3", 307 pounds, along with the 250 of Marisic, just plowing through the interior of that defensive line.
Gaffney in at tailback. First down carry for Tyler Gaffney. Breaking tackles inside the 10. Diving forward to the 4. Ehrman finally brings him down.
Watch David DeCastro, number 52. He got away from the University of Washington. He's the right guard right here. And just watch it once more. The dominant effort. You saw it on the screen pass. That's just mowing the guy down.
Stanford's power run game has the Cardinal 1st and goal from just inside the 5.
And there's big McGillicuddy, 307 pounds on the hash mark.
Wake Forest has to take a timeout.
Timeout. Wake Forest. That's their first charge timeout.
1st and goal for Stanford when we come back.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Bud Light. It's the sure sign of a good time. Here we go. And Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
If you drove south across the Golden Gate Bridge from Marin County and just drove about 35 miles down to Palo Alto, California, you'd cross over onto the campus of Stanford University, which is its own municipality, Stanford, California, home of Stanford Stadium, home of the Cardinal, wearing black jerseys for the first time. The power run game from the Cardinal has set Andrew Luck and company up for 1st and goal. Gaffney on the toss. Marisic blocks for him on the outside. Did Gaffney cross in? Yes, he did. Touchdown, Stanford. First 2 touchdowns through the air. This one firmly on the ground.
Tremendous balance. I mean, when you can run the ball the way that Stanford runs, and that's what I love about Jim Harbaugh and all of this run game, and just a nice toss crack here. You see the big fellas, Derek Hall once again, the tight end, number 82, Kobe Fleener, who played a brilliant game at UCLA a week ago, driving the Demon Deacons into the end zone. And this running back committee effective tonight.
2nd touchdown of the season for Tyler Gaffney, the sophomore from San Diego. Whitaker's kick is good, and it's a 21-7 start for the Stanford Cardinal. The nation's number 19th ranked team with a solid start, trying to avoid the upset from Wake Forest from the ACC. How about this for balance? 11 passes attempted by Stanford, 11 rushes for Stanford. Andrew Luck completed 9 of those 11 passes, but Brock, there's a physicalness, there's a toughness to that Stanford run game, even without Toby Gerhart.
That's right. It's the group up front. I mean, when you have redshirt seniors, Andrew Phillips, 71, Chase Beeler, 72, the 2 young studs that we've highlighted already, David DeCastro and Jonathan Martin, and even the 5th-year senior, Derek Hall, at right tackle, just his 3rd game played, 3rd start of his career. I think any coach in America would tell you, if I could have a position group that we can hang our hat on, in the words of Jim Harbaugh, if I could have a position group that leads my team, the identity of our team, I think most coaches in America are always going to point to that offensive line. That's exactly what Jim Harbaugh has here.
Whitaker's kickoff will bounce out for a touchback. Wake gets it at the 20. Already 3 touchdowns in the book. It was Andrew Luck leading a perfect drive, 5 for 5. Then Chris Owusu on the screen pass into the end zone. First touchdown of the season for him. Wake answered with a touchdown drive. Gibbons on the reverse to even the score 7-7. Then it was Luck to Owusu again. 14-7, and now Gaffney into the end zone to make the score Stanford 21, Wake Forest 7. And before the first and 10 play, it's a timeout for Stanford. So Stanford takes one on defense after the offense marches down, and Gaffney gets into the end zone to make it 21-7. Oh, we talked a lot about Andrew Luck in the Stanford offense, but what have you seen through the first couple of weeks from this Stanford defense?
Stanford's been very, very sound defensively, and they're getting contributions from everybody. Just as you see that graphic there offensively, and that's really a staple of a West Coast system what Jim Harbaugh brings offensively. 5 different rushers, 6 different guys catching passes. And then defensively for Andrew Luck, unlike last year where they gave up so many big plays and ranked in the 90s defensively, Jim Harbaugh brings in a new staff. And Vic Fangio, 27 years of experience. Last time defensive coordinator Fangio was in the college ranks was as a GA back in North Carolina in 1983. But you see a lot of pro principles. Guys not out of assignment, just playing technically and fundamentally very sound on defense.
Out of the Stanford timeout, first and 10 for Wake. The true freshman Tanner Price at quarterback. Pressure up the middle coming. Maurice beats his man Josh Adams into the ground and then beats Tanner Price into the ground.
We highlighted the fullback earlier, this time just on a linebacker dog. And we've got a penalty right in the scrum as well.
Number 11 on the offense. Ball be placed at the spot of the foul. Second down, first down.
And that's the right call. No one in the vicinity. The ball gets nowhere near the line of scrimmage. But that's the other thing to highlight about Vic Fangio's group, too. It's not just the system and the 3-4 and the coverages and otherwise. Look at the size of these Stanford defenders in their front 7. You've got Fua at 305. You see Bulky there on that hit as well. He's 280. Matt Masafilo, maybe their most athletic end, number 98. He's 280 pounds. So you can run that 3-4. And you got the nice size at your D ends and the nose tackle.
Deacon's thrown in reverse, 2nd and 19. Price will take the snap from his own 5. Inside give Josh Adams for a pickup of about 4 for the 5th-year senior. He's right around 2,000 yards in his career.
You see Masafilo, redshirt junior, actually hurt his knee and missed 5 games a year ago. But this is danger time for Jim Grobe and Wake Forest. You're down 21-7 on the road. You're playing. You kicked off at 11 o'clock on your body clock. Stanford is doing whatever they want to do to you offensively. We saw the nice adjustment in the reverse for the touchdown run. This is a time for Wake Forest, so you better try to change this momentum that's going in one direction.
Price pressured again and sacked near the goal line. It's Chase Thomas who drills Tanner Price on 3rd and long.
Now Chase Thomas, 3rd sack of the season, by far the best pass rusher. Ideal. You know, Vic Fangio wants to be a 3-4 guy. He'll be a 4-down nickel guy as well, but he's going to take what his personnel does best. And Chase Thomas, your prototypical 3-4 pass rushing linebacker, driving Price into the turf on that 3rd down.
Popham punts from his own end zone. Baldwin fields at the 50. Doug Baldwin has a seam. Wrestled down inside the 30. Quarles makes the stop. Stanford a 2-touchdown lead with stellar field position.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Dr. Pepper. There's nothing like a pepper. And Hyundai, your view of the world looks better when you drive a car that does everything better, like the Hyundai Genesis.
here at Avery Aquatic Center. Since 1908, Stanford has sent at least one athlete to every Olympics. And since 1936, Stanford women's swimming and diving has won 50 medals, 30 of which were gold. Welcome to my university.
Stellar job on camera, Elaine Breeden, the relative of Diane Sawyers, an Olympic swimmer. Stanford gets the football at the Wake 27, 1st and 10. Luck, pressure, but completes anyway. Griff Whalen makes a sliding grab near the 10.
And you're just in such a bind as a defensive coordinator. Brad Lambert, he's got young kids out here. He's overmatched. He's undersized. That time he tries to bring some pressure off the edge. And Andrew Luck at 6'4", 230 feels it the whole way. Stands strong in the pocket and just delivers once again rather effortlessly. And here comes my guy McGillicuddy, by the way.
Gaffney runs behind McGillicuddy, but somebody missed a block in the middle. Tristan Doherty, the second-year starter for Wake Forest, dropping Gaffney.
One thing you're going to see is more personnel shuttles in and out of here. I don't know if anybody runs more personnel groups than Stanford. And last week it gave UCLA a lot of headaches as they're trying to run their personnel on and off the field. But it's that depth of the playbook that Jim Harbaugh said, listen, Andrew Luck can memorize things. I mean, it's a challenge for me to keep him challenged. He takes all this information, process it, and because he can handle it, we can run the multiple looks and personnel groups we have.
Luck throwing on 2nd and 12, wide open back out of the backfield. Uswe Amanum into the end zone. And Stanford is pouring it on in the second quarter. The 4th straight touchdown drive for the Cardinal.
He's got a pretty quick release, doesn't he, Carter? A lot of times you see 6'4", 235-pound quarterbacks. It's one of the other areas that just separates and keeps these NFL scouts salivating. You see Zamanum coming free out of the backfield, no hesitation, and that ball's right out.
PAT is no good from Nate Whitaker.
That looks like your pitching wedge sometimes, doesn't it? Just a little fat.
You're watching ESPN, new home of the Bowl Championship Series.
Now, Mel Kiper and everybody else raving about Andrew Luck. Brock Heward, you have been impressed by this Stanford quarterback, and the numbers are backing you up now with 3 touchdown passes tonight. 22 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions in his college career.
Yeah, he's not been hit yet tonight. You let him get comfortable, and they're running it at will. They're playing really good defense other than one drive. He's got open receivers, but I just love how decisive he is. You don't see him holding the ball ever. He's either tucking and running or getting out to the multiple playmakers they have.
Whitaker's kick brought out of the end zone by Campanero. Returned to near the 30. Well, what was Andrew Luck seeing on that last touchdown pass?
The nice thing that he has is a head coach that has an NFL playbook, and like most NFL playbooks, you're going to be able to take your back out of the backfield. You're going to watch Wake Forest come on a corner blitz to that short side. Luck sees it the whole way. Riley Haynes, the weak side linebacker. Again, you hesitate for a second against Andrew Luck, and he's going to make it pay.
Wake Forest 3 and out on its last possession. Short gain on 1st down. Across the 50 today, Stanford has already run 18 plays.
Just a thoroughly dominating effort at this point. And I said before the last drive, it's danger time for Jim Grove and Wake Forest. You've got to find a way at this point to just move the chains.
Screen. Pendergrass bobbles and then makes the grab. with Marisic in hot pursuit. So a short gain and now 3rd down already for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They scored a touchdown on their 2nd drive. Punt, 3 and out since then, and they've seen Stanford take a 20-point lead here in the 2nd quarter. Blitz coming. Price has to get rid of it. Incomplete. Shane Skov bringing pressure.
And that's just a great example. We saw the blitz, the corner blitz by Wake Forest, and Andrew Luck sees it pre-snap. Here's Stanford's what you do to a freshman quarterback. You bring blitzes, you speed up that clock that's already been rushed throughout much of this first half. You see Shane Skov coming free through there. Next year, Tanner's going to see that blitz. He's going to change the protection. He's going to move his back over. Right now, this game is just flying around him too fast.
Vic Fangio hasn't been able to blitz a true freshman quarterback since 1983. Baldwin lets it hit at the 30. Wake Forest downs it near the 28. Well, Brock, are you ready for some football? Monday night, just up the road, it's the defending champ New Orleans Saints against Frank Gore, the San Francisco 49ers. Monday, 8:30 Eastern. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. Drew Brees' all-time total yardage was actually surpassed at Austin Westlake High School by the guy who's now quarterbacking Wake Forest, Tanner Price. Those are 3 excellent names in that Austin Westlake system. Luck completes on 1st down to Doug Baldwin. Slips out of a tackle on the outside, slipping away from A.J. Marshall before Alex Fry finally makes a stop.
Education of a young guy. He sure liked these simple throws, I'll tell you that much. You just throw a little smoke route out to your wide receiver. Many times they'll have a called run play. And if Wake Forest is going to load up the box and you've got one-on-one out there with your wide receiver, well, Andrew in that quick release flicks it out there, and it's an 11-yard gain.
Luck, straight drop on 1st down, completing to the back, Stephon Taylor. Knee was down, a loss of a couple. I got a big kick out of you, Brock Ewart, former standout NFL quarterback, and Jim Harbaugh played in the league for 15 years. Just talking about the quarterback position and what both of you liked and what especially Jim Harbaugh knows working on a day-to-day basis with Andrew Luck.
Well, and here's a perfect example. Look at all the signals and plays and the personnel groups being flashed on that sideline. I just asked him, who does he remind you of? You've been 15 years in the game, and as you can imagine, you know, the guy that he reminds me of is a guy I backed up, and Peyton Manning, just a really bright guy that has all the fundamentals and all the physical tools to go with a really sharp brain.
Andrew Luck completes again on 2nd down and 12. And I want to go back to that. You said Andrew Luck reminds you, in some ways anyway, of Peyton Manning.
He does. You know, I was there and I watched Peyton. The thing that people don't appreciate enough is how much he can process. It's something you can't measure. You can go out and watch a guy run and throw it 50, 60, 70 yards and how fast does the ball come and everything else. But one of the skill sets that's hard to measure and is underappreciated is how bright are you? What's your football IQ? How quickly do you see the game? How much information can you take in and then in an instant spit out? That's one of Peyton's tremendous strengths, and as a young guy, Andrew Luck shares those same gifts.
Scrambling on 3rd and 6, slipping out of a tackle, 1st down and more. Andrew Luck inside the 20, 10, 5, a rushing touchdown for Luck to go with 3 passing TDs on the night. A 52-yard scramble.
With all due respect to the greatest quarterback on the planet right now, I think you could argue Peyton Manning. Yeah, Peyton's not running for 52 yards through a defense like Andrew just did.
season. The shoelaces are tied. 3 passing touchdowns and now a 52-yard scramble for Stanford's Andrew Luck. No team will travel across the continental United States further than Wake Forest did, over 2,300 miles from Winston-Salem, North Carolina to Stanford, California. And it has not been a pleasurable trip thus far. 34-7 as they have watched the Andrew Luck Show. Now back on the ESPN campus in Bristol, Connecticut, it was Nick Foles back in July taking a shot at his rival's helmet. Then Matt Barkley, he couldn't hit his rival's helmet. Andrew Luck, first toss, drilling the Cal helmet. Not the big game, but how about the big toss and a big smile from that one on the ESPN campus there in Bristol. Impressing back in July, and now he's impressing in September. New Wake Forest quarterback, it's Ted Stakaitis, the sophomore from Nice High School in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida.
And Stakaitis started the first 2 games, actually has a bruised left hand. That really opened the door for Tanner Price, as did Tanner's big afternoon against Duke a week ago with 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. I like this move. Got to change things up, because what you're doing in 4 consecutive drives is stalling. It's time to make a move and see if Stakaitis can get this run game going.
Bohannon gets the carry on 2nd down, but already 3rd and long coming up for Wake Forest. Stakaitis more of a running quarterback. There's more of a run game package when number 13 is in for the Deeks.
He's actually their leading rusher. Little guy, about 6 foot tall. He's coming into an environment that's been completely dominated by Stanford tonight.
Stakaitis sacked on 3rd and long. Sione Fua has his 2nd sack of the season. Whether it's Tanner Price or Ted Stakaitis at quarterback, Wake Forest having an awful lot of trouble moving against the Stanford D.
And it's just such a hopeless feeling when you've got drive after drive after drive that stalls and you can't even get that 1 first down.
3 straight 3 and outs. 2 of those with Tanner Price at QB. And now Ted Stakaitis. Baldwin lets it bounce. Wake will down it inside the 40-yard line. Let's take a look at our protection spotlight brought to you by Castrol GTX. And it may be a lack of protection spotlight. Already 4 sacks allowed by the Wake Forest offensive line that had been so good protecting quarterbacks for the first couple of games. 0 sacks before tonight.
Occasionally it's been pressure. There have been times that a young quarterback just is holding that ball. I thought on that 3rd down there, Stakaitis, Stanford just rushes forward. You see the coach on the sideline tell him you got to get rid of the ball. You can't hold on to the ball against this Stanford defense. And they continue to put the grass stains on whatever quarterback's going in there for the Demon Deacons.
Minimal gain on 1st down. Wilbur makes the stop. Let's go back to Ryan Whalen, the senior wide receiver, injured on the first drive for the Stanford Cardinal.
You see the left elbow there, unfortunately, bending the wrong way. Whalen goes into the locker room.
Ryan Whalen is now on the Stanford sideline, arm in a sling. We have no official word, but again, his arm is in a sling on the Stanford sideline. Luck throwing again on 2nd down, a wide open man downfield. It's Kobe Fleener, the senior tight end from Lamont, Illinois.
And A.J. Marshall continues to get picked on out there. That's the true freshman quarterback. You see the redshirt sophomore in Andrew Luck actually stare down that corner like he was throwing to the flat. Marshall got flat-footed, and he's thrown to the tight end Fleener that can really run down the sidelines.
That's Ryan Whalen on the Stanford sideline. Andrew Luck now 15 of 17, 3 passing touchdowns, a 52-yard rushing touchdown. Looking long on first down, this one incomplete. Intended for Owusu over the middle.
You can sense some of the frustration. I mean, no quarterback ever plays a perfect game, and that time Wake Forest brings the house. They play cover 0, just man on man, and Andrew could sense Owusu running away. His feet got lost from underneath him, and thus the ball flutters into the ground.
Out of the eye on 2nd and 10. Gaffney cuts it back, has room. Tyler Gaffney, stunner step at the 30, leans forward inside the 20. Okoro finally brings down Tyler Gaffney, but the Cardinal moving the football at will.
And assistant head coach in charge of the offense, Greg Roman, told us last week that Gaffney has that kind of ability. Out of all this running back by committee, he's the one guy that can slash, the one guy that can plant his feet, hop back, cut across the grain as he does there. And even when you put 8 guys for Wake Forest in around that line of scrimmage, Jim Harbaugh and this running back committee is simply too much.
22-yard pickup. Now Taylor in at tailback. Leaner in motion. Taylor gets it. Running behind a good block from Marisic. A first down, and Taylor shoved out inside the 5. Quarles stops him short of the goal line.
And you're talking about the conversation that Jim and I had, Harbaugh, as far as quarterbacks go. I'll tell you what I love. I really enjoy getting in these production meetings with the coaches and talking some football. And I loved when he told us the story of Bo Schembechler and taking his first head job at San Diego, and Bo Schembechler asking Jim, hey, you going to have a tight end? Put his hand on the ground. Yes, coach, I'll have a tight end. You going to have a fullback? Yes, coach, I'm going to have a fullback. Well, good. Then you're all set. You're ready to go. A lot of that identity of this physical football built by both Bo Schembechler and his dad there in Western Kentucky.
Luck throwing out of the eye. The pass is incomplete. I spoke with Oliver Luck, Andrew's father, who's now the athletic director at West Virginia, last week. I asked him if he knew Jim Harbaugh somewhere in his football background. Oliver was a great quarterback as well. He said, I didn't know Jim Harbaugh, but I knew Bo Schembechler, and I knew Don Neal, and therefore I knew the type of football coach that Jim Harbaugh was, and that's where I wanted my son playing football.
And it's such a brilliant mix. It's a West Coast system. All the calls and the language is all West Coast, but then you add that power element to it. He's really building a good thing here on the farm.
Second goal. Wilkerson stood up. It'll be 3rd and goal for the Cardinal as Wake tries to make a defensive stand. Matt Woodleaf, the 5th-year senior, on the stop.
He's their little plugger, 5'11", 260 pounds, 3rd leading tackler. There's an area of the field that fits that body type right down here on the goal line, plugging away.
They've got a few little pluggers. Power eye now. Gaffney is the tailback. Gaffney behind Marisic, stretching for the goal line. He is down short of the goal line. Did the ball cross the plane? That looks like it breaks the plane, Brock.
Yeah, I think that is going to be reviewed, and does look like a touchdown.
Prior play is under further review.
And just remember, with that goal line, just imagine a plane of glass running directly into infinity, and all that ball has to do, I'll do my best on this screen here, is at one point touch any part of that front part of that goal line. Obviously while still in his control, but if it touches any of that plane of glass that you can imagine coming straight up from the front part of that goal line, it's a touchdown.
So would you say to infinity and beyond for that extended goal line? The Buzz Lightyear principle of football? Heck of a play by Gaffney anyway.
Gaffney was Mr. California. I think that's clearly, obviously hard from that view to tell exactly. I think this is the best shot we have at it. He leaps from 3.5 yards away. Yeah, and I think that's clearly a touch. That gets all the way into the threshold of the end zone, and all it needs to do, and it's firmly in his grasp. I'm imagining this game's going to get further away from Wake Forest at 40-7.
Even though the referee, Michael Batlin, is on the headset, now he's going to get the call.
After further review, the ruling on the field has changed. Touchdown.
Touchdown, Stanford Cardinal. Give it to Tyler Gaffney. Second touchdown of the night, third of his sophomore season.
Just look at the athleticism of where he takes off. Gaffney also plays on the baseball team, started over 40 games for the Cardinal. Very good baseball player as well, very talented. And just trying to find his niche. We asked Harbaugh, you know, is someone going to emerge? Do they need to emerge? He said, listen, they're all young guys. They're all freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores. Let's just give this thing time and see if someone like a Toby Gerhardt, his junior and senior year, does indeed come to be the leading runner.
Well, Gaffney knows how difficult a 6-for-6 night is, but that's exactly what the Stanford offense has going. 6 possessions, 6 touchdowns, and the Cardinals showing why they are a Rose Bowl contender. A 41-7 lead on Wake Forest. Sunday night countdown. Join Chris Berman and the gang, 11 a.m. Eastern. ESPN HD getting you set for the full day of action. ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown presented by IBM on ESPN Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. 2:50 to go in the second quarter. Brock, how impressive is this performance by Stanford thus far? 41-7 on a team that beat them a year ago.
I think Jim Grobe's face there tells you how impressive it is. I don't care who you're playing at what level. To execute at this level, no turnovers, really no penalties, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. It's the mix, it's the balance. Every offensive coordinator and system strives for some sort of balance. And when you can establish your will at the line of scrimmage, when you can run it, throw it, play action pass, open that entire playbook up. As I said, I don't care if you're going up against air at times. To score on 6 of 6, very impressive.
Let's check in with Wendy.
Very much coming up on our Outback Steakhouse halftime report. Arizona giving Iowa all kinds of trouble. Case Keenum out of the game for Houston with an apparent leg injury and a thrilling finish in East Lansing. Todd McShay and Robert Smith to join me. We'll have the highlights coming up at the half.
This is a late rally from the Pac-10 here. Arizona against Iowa, UCLA against the University of Houston, and a dominant performance so far for Stanford against Wake Forest. Tanner Price back at quarterback for the Demon Deacons. It has been 3 straight 3-and-outs for the Wake Forest offense. Price will keep it on first down, scrambling across the 25, and takes a good pop from Richard Sherman.
Stanford continues to keep their starters in defensively. That's probably one of the questions that Jim and his staff will have at halftime. How much do you see Richard Sherman and Shane Scove coming off of the knee injury? I'll tell you one thing I really like about Stanford's defense. Some of the play of the guys in the secondary has been a pleasant surprise, but I really like their edge linebackers. Both Thomas Kaiser, 94, Chase Thomas, we saw with the sack earlier. They fit the mold of this aggressive 3-4 defense.
Here comes the pressure on second down. Price driving the pile forward for a first down. Michael Thomas on the stop. Tanner Price finally picks up another Wake Forest first down. About Stanford against Sacramento State, a football championship subdivision team. Cardinal put up 38 in the first half against Sac State, 41 against Wake Forest. Blitz coming again. Handoff goes to Josh Adams. Around the edge, through the arms of Michael Thomas.
And 92-14. in the first half of action in their first 3 games this season. Coming into this one, it scored 51 to their opponent's 7, and obviously the thrashing through the first 30 minutes. It's what good teams do. It's what you want to do when you know you're taking on a team that maybe isn't as physically talented, certainly not as experienced as you, coming across 3 time zones. Don't give them life.
Penalty flag.
Dead ball, offsides, defense, number 11.
Now this is a guy, obviously Shane Scove there. You see him tapping the helmet. My bad. He's trying to time up that blitz. He's a weapon they need back. As good as their defense was at UCLA a week ago and shutting them out, Max Bergen filled in, their leading tackler. Scove's a difference maker. Played as a true freshman last year, had 15 tackles in their bowl game at the Sun Bowl. You could just see the speed. He had the late hit. He brings a little bit of an edge to that 3-4. Really complements the outside athletic guys they have as well.
Wake picks up the pressure this time, but the throw is way behind Devon Brown. Wake Forest is not used to a blowout game. This team, even when they were getting beat, I mean, they were 5-7 a year ago. They missed a bowl for the first time in 4 years. That used to be commonplace for Wake Forest football. Now it's an aberration. But Jim Grobe's teams have always kept the score close. They're not used to 41-7 in the second quarter, even against excellent football teams. Price on second down, a rare completion to Cameron Ford. That's just the second catch of the season for the junior tight end. And that goes back to the Ohio University days when Jim Grobe's team would always compete into the fourth quarter. Now in his 10th season at Wake Forest, they have been in just about every football game during his tenure. Getting blown out tonight at Stanford.
Yeah, but it's a different animal when you're starting a true freshman. And as talented as Tanner is, and we like his arm and his poise, and the coach is raving about how smart he is and handling all the system, when you start a true freshman, shellackings like this can happen.
Wake goes for it on fourth down. Adams stretches for the first down. Terrence Stevens got a hold of him but couldn't prevent the first down.
One thing you'd like to see with Tanner through the rest of this half and into the second half is just slow the game down. Just as fast and as much of a rush as everything was for the first 30 minutes of this game. Find a way to see some of the checkdowns. Get to your second receiver. Change of protection when there's an obvious blitz. Just try to take in all the massive amount of information that's coming your way and just process it and slow it down.
Let's take a look at our Amway positive performance. Any guesses? How about Andrew Luck with 3 touchdown passes and a 52-yard scramble for a TD?
You can see the guys wide open through some well-designed. This is where he's a bit unique. When you look at the Nick Foles, who's a really good passer in Arizona, and some of the other 6'4", 235-pound quarterbacks in college football, Blaine Gabbert in Missouri, they can't do that. That is the one element that really sets him apart. Not only a tremendous passer, and there's a good shot, unfortunately, if there's been one negative and one downer tonight, that's Ryan Whalen, who has the sling on. Looked like he hyperextended his elbow. Andrew Luck's been just about perfect through the first half.
Stanford safety Michael Thomas comes off the field hobbled after that last play. First down, Price pumps, steps through the pressure, and now Tanner Price will throw it. Incomplete. Cameron Ford couldn't come back to the football.
Just watch the eyes of Tanner Price right there. Watch a freshman trying to figure out, do I run? Do I tuck it? What should I do? You know, as poised as you can be in practice and as poised you can be at home, start to feel that pressure. And I can't illustrate or make that point enough at how fast everything, Carter, is just going around you, and your eyes got to maintain that focus down the field and deliver that ball more accurately.
Another incompletion from Tanner Price. The 3-4 defense, we say 3-4, that's 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers. It's built for pressure, but Vic Fangio has turned it up tonight with a true freshman quarterback on the other side.
And you're also going to see through Vic for the rest of this season. And as we talked about at Notre Dame next week, we're going to make the trip up to Eugene in a couple weeks.
Let's do it, partner.
See them against Oregon. USC, you're going to see a multitude of looks. It's probably going to get a little bit more simplified tonight, but they'll run the 3-4. They'll get in their 4-down nickel. Vic Fangio has a 27-year pedigree of an NFL defensive playbook, and trust me, getting to a lot of looks will not be an issue for him.
Jim Harbaugh said his goal for this year's defense, he just wanted them to be more confident. Last year, they got burned a few times, even though it was an 8-win season, 6-3 in the Pac-10. But through 2.5 games, does this look like a much more confident defense for Stanford?
Oh, certainly it does. And you talk about some of the pedigree that Jim has and where he's been and the places he's been. And it's a line that I love. And from my experience back in the day playing, when you can hang your hat on something. And in one of my years, we had Corey Dillon to hand the ball off to. And all we did, it's called the elephant walk. And we just walked it right down the field, just hand it to Corey Dillon, hand it to Corey Dillon, hand it to Corey Dillon. And when Jim Harbaugh said that yesterday, we need something to hang our hat on. That power run game is what they have offensively. And I think they're starting to establish it and build that chemistry here defensively as well.
Price steps away from the pressure, but he's brought down by Chase Thomas on 3rd down as the junior outside linebacker from Marietta, Georgia, Walton High School, runs down Price. He changed his jersey from 93 to 44 when he switched from defensive end to linebacker.
Second charge timeout.
In this new 3-4 defense.
30-second charge timeout.
And you can see by the arms there, these are well put together guys. And Thomas Kaiser on the other side. If you're going to run a 3-4, you need the beef in the middle, and that's Sione Fua, and you need those strong guys that can hold the point of attack outside.
An important day for the Pac-10. It's been a late rally for the Pac-10. What kind of grade would you give the Pac-10 conference today, Brock?
We'll see here. I mean, this is obviously the big one for me. You know, what happens there? How does that continue to play out through tonight? Because if Arizona makes that statement, we saw Iowa last week on TV just dominate Iowa State. If Arizona can hold on to that one tonight, UCLA is turning it around. Obviously, the mixed reviews with Washington and California, just not competitive in those games. I think it's probably a B+, to be fair. But Arizona better hold on, and UCLA as well.
Nevada's win over Cal was last night to get it started, but the Pac-10 has come back from that poor performance from Cal. As Devon Brown makes the grab for Wake Forest, 1st down to the 31 with the clock ticking towards the half. Wake Forest takes a timeout.
Timeout. Wake Forest. That's their 3rd and final charge timeout.
And don't sleep on Arizona State as well. What Dennis Erickson did there at Wisconsin today, really had a chance to win that game. Unfortunately, they blew it. Got the PAT blocked at the end of the game. Couldn't find a way to tie it up and get it to overtime. But all in all, I think for the conference, not a bad afternoon.
Well, I'll tell you what, partner. Up there in Boise, Idaho, it is going to be a big one next week. Saturday Night Football. Primetime, 8 Eastern, Oregon State versus 3rd-ranked Boise State. ESPN's College Game Day, built by the Home Depot on hand. 9 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPNU. Beginning with Aaron Andrews, then 10 a.m. to noon. Game Day moves over to ESPN for 2 hours. And then Oregon State versus Boise State. Critical game for Boise State's national championship aspirations. 48-yard field goal coming from Jimmy Newman. His career long is 44. But first, a Stanford timeout.
Timeout. Stanford. That's their 3rd and final charge timeout. This would be a 30-second charge timeout.
Wake Forest trying to get points on the scoreboard. They already have a little bit of momentum. I mean, the last 3 drives were 3 and out, so moving the football at least, down 41-7 before the half, there is at least a little glimmer for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Jim Harbaugh, he doesn't care that it's 41-7. I'm not going to take the timeout with me into halftime. Put a little bit more pressure on that kicker.
Wake Forest is actually 4-0 all-time against the Pac-10. This is the first time they have traveled to California, first time they have played at a Pac-10 opponent. They beat Stanford at home last year. Prior to that, 3 wins against Pac-10 opponents in bowl games. And Stanford is handing it to the Demon Deacons. Jimmy Newman trying for a career-long 48-yard field goal before the half. Good hole, good kick. And he's got a new career high. So Jimmy Newman with a 48-yard field goal makes it 10 points on the board for Wake Forest, and at least a positive going into the halftime locker room. And finally something to cheer about for the Wake Forest fans who traveled over 2,300 miles from Winston-Salem, North Carolina out to Stanford. First ever trip to California for Wake Forest, and 23:03 as the crow flies from Winston-Salem to Stanford. So other than the teams who were traveling out to Hawaii, this is the longest trip for any team in the Football Bowl subdivision this year, even beating Syracuse, New York to Seattle, Washington last week. That Syracuse-Washington game, which, by the way, Brock, your alma mater hung it on my alma mater.
Yeah, but they had a little bit of an issue with the Cornhuskers today up in Seattle, a little bit too much. You talked about the Pac-10 and what kind of day did they have. Today was a real measuring stick, and there's a lot of football left in that Iowa-Arizona game. And I think, unfortunately, such a slow start for the ACC this year as well. And the Virginia Tech loss a week ago, and Georgia Tech, and everybody at the top of that conference, and Miami, the struggles a week ago. I don't know if this was quite a litmus test. I don't think Wake Forest is going to be competing for a championship this year, but a very definitive statement between the Pac-10 and the ACC here tonight.
Taylor, as one of the up men, is shoved out of bounds with zeros on the clock. So we head to the half. A dominant first half performance from Andrew Luck in Stanford, 41-10 on Wake Forest. Now we send you to the studio, Wendy Nix for the Outback Steakhouse halftime report. If you're a Stanford, California fan, if you're a Stanford Cardinal fan here in Stanford, California, a 31-point edge at the half. Stanford over Wake Forest. Carter Blackburn with Brock Heward. Stanford showing it is a Pac-10 title contender. It is a player on the national stage with a dominant performance.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be more efficient than that. 340 yards of offense, no turnovers. You score on every single drive. Just a one-sided affair in the first half.
And it has been both through the air and on the ground as we recap with our Chick-fil-A drive recap. And it has been 6 impressive drives for Stanford. Andrew Luck to Chris Owusu once and then twice to get the scoring started. Then it's Gaffney on the ground muscling his way in. Back to the air. Luck to a man him out of the backfield. Then Andrew Luck takes it himself. 52 yards on the scramble for the touchdown. Then Gaffney again, just breaking the plane. A perfect 6-for-6 offensive performance in the first half for the Stanford Cardinal. And it will be Stanford football to begin the second half from just inside the 40. Doesn't get much better than this. In fact, it doesn't get any better than this for an offense.
And after coming off an emotional win a week ago, a shutout down in the Rose Bowl where they had lost 6 consecutive games to the Bruins, you just wondered how they would respond. School starts on Monday. How was your work week? How was your preparation? You line up out here and you see it's a mismatch physically with Wake Forest, but they take advantage and they just execute really to the highest level they could with 6 touchdown drives.
Play fake on first down. Luck down the middle. Incomplete on the first attempt of the second half, intended for Doug Baldwin. I mentioned school starts on Monday, late start. Stanford's on the quarter system, so for these Stanford football players, it has been about 6 weeks of football without even having to crack the books for classes yet. And that begins on Monday. Stanford Cardinal trying to go to 3-0 for the first time since 2001. And avenge a loss last year at Wake Forest in Winston-Salem. The Geeks came back from a 17-3 halftime deficit. Bigger halftime deficit tonight. 31 points. Luck goes scrambling for a first down again. Andrew Luck, 3 passing touchdowns in the first half and a rushing touchdown.
And that play really indicative when you look across the sidelines, and Tanner Price, a true freshman for Wake Forest, took his lumps and sacks in that first half. He's watching a guy that's just a redshirt sophomore that understands the timing within that pocket. First read's not there. Second read, I'm not holding it. I'm not hesitating. I'm going to put my foot in the ground and go. And Andrew's got the talent and the speed to be able to move the chains with his legs.
Later in motion. Out of the eye, give is to Stephon Taylor. Gain of about 10 again on first down. Well, whether it's Andrew Luck passing or Stanford running on the ground, it has been a big push from that big, impressive group up front.
Just look at the shot right there. I mean, look at the size. That we made this point last week when Stanford completely thrashed UCLA. I mean, these are guys that are 300 pounds that look like they're 250. You've got Beeler at 285. He's the little guy at center. Then DeCastro's 310, Phillips 300, Martin 304, Derek Hall 305. And they move very well for that size.
Gaffney on 2nd and 1. Stanford first down, running behind the left side, and now Gaffney down the sideline, shoved out inside the 10. Alex Fry finally pushes out Tyler Gaffney, who already has a pair of rushing touchdowns.
And watch that group move as one. You've got 4 guys, 4 returning starters, and that's such a key with an offensive line. Not talked about enough. When that group works as one, when they have the cohesion and the movement, they're a downhill team. They're more of a power and an ISO team than they are a true zone blocking team. But that group, they work so well together.
Gaffney has 76 for a new career high. Luck to the back corner of the end zone. It is incomplete, intended for Griff Whalen. C.J. Washington in coverage.
And you can just see defensively when you can run it at people. And we saw this last week in the Rose Bowl. It just slows down that rush. That defensive line takes such a beating they can't pin their ears back and get. Andrew Luck, other than his scrambles, has not been touched or hit tonight.
2nd and goal. Taylor right up the gut. Nearly untouched into the end zone. Make it 7 for 7 possessions for touchdowns for the Stanford Cardinal.
I think there's a certain Toby Gerhardt in Minnesota that kind of wishes he was back playing college football when he could run through holes like this. And last year, Owen Marisic led the way for Toby Gerhardt. This year, it's by committee, but just another gaping hole for Stanford to run through.
Jim Harbaugh said the taste of that Wake Forest defeat last year still in his mouth. And now Wake is getting a taste of the Stanford Cardinal. A cheesy sports announcer might say those black uniforms are bringing Stanford good luck tonight. First time that Stanford wears the black uniforms, and they have a dominant 48-10 lead on Wake Forest. Brown, the kick returner, across the 25-yard line. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup begins with the Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire on ESPN tomorrow at 1 Eastern. Did Jimmy Johnson rally again to win a 5th straight Cup title? Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at noon on ESPN2. Carter Blackburn with Brock Heward, former University of Washington quarterback. We see the true freshman quarterback, Tanner Price, in for Wake Forest. He is just the 3rd true freshman to start at quarterback in the Football Bowl subdivision this year. Handoff goes to Chris Givens on first down on the sweep. Nothing doing as Delano Howell strings it out. Ted Stakaitis played 1 series at quarterback for Wake Forest. Eamon Deacon's quarterback job was wide open. In fact, we talked with Jim Grobe on the field before the game, and he said the plan was to redshirt Tanner Price, but they really liked the poise and command. Now, on the road as a true freshman against the top 25 team, that's a whole nother story. We're seeing it play out tonight. Price keeps for a short gain on 2nd down.
And you're seeing a couple new little elements here to start the second half. A little bit of the fly sweep action, just trying to give Stanford something to look at laterally. It's been all downhill, and that front seven for Stanford is just hemmed in everything that Wake Forest has tried to do. So the Demon Deacons start with the fly sweep, and they fake the fly sweep, just trying to expand the field of play.
Stanford showing pressure again on 3rd and 6. Price changes the play. Blitz picked up. Price time to throw. Down the seam. Off the hands. Deflected. And it is intercepted. Austin Yancey has the pick. Shoved out inside the 15. Off the hands of Devon Brown. And Austin Yancey, the senior from League City, Texas, continues Stanford's dominance on both sides of the ball.
Stanford able to get pressure tonight, just rushing 5 or 6, keeping those 2 safeties back. You see Yancey watching the play in front of him the whole way. That ball's just a little hot, a little bit high and behind, and anytime you have the deep safeties and a ball tipped in the air, well, that's a recipe for disaster for a quarterback as Price suffers first interception of his career.
35-yard return from Austin Yancey to once again set up the Stanford offense, now inside the 15. Marisic late running back on the field for his fullback duties.
Stanford.
He's also the middle linebacker for the Cardinals, so no chance for a rest unless Stanford takes a timeout. Number 99, the big man, Terrence Stevens, the sophomore, serenading his teammates as we take a look at our FaceTime profile brought to you by Edward Jones.
But now I see how you were there for me.
Never would have made it from Marvin Sapp, as you saw in Terrence Stevens used to pick his teammates up at a difficult time at the end of training camp. Native of Gaithersburg, Maryland, had a great visit with Terrence, mom and granddad last night. They both talked about football coach Dave Monserini and wrestling coach Dan Sorotkin were instrumental in getting Terrence Stevens to this point as a student athlete at Stanford University. Out of the timeout. Pass complete on 1st down. Ryan Hewitt makes the grab. The backup fullback for Stanford near a 1st down.
One of the things I really like about fullbacks and tight ends is not just bring the physical element, and it goes unnoticed a lot of the times, but what it does to a defense. And as many tight ends as Stanford rolls out there, you keep a base defense on the field, and then you create mismatches. Then you have your more athletic tight ends on linebackers and safeties. You could take advantage of those mismatches as well.
Look to the end zone. Caught for a Stanford touchdown. 8 possessions, 8 touchdowns. This time it's Doug Baldwin. Touchdown pass number 4 for Andrew Luck.
Another well-conceived scheme. We've seen a number of these. The backs out of the backfield, just simple. It's timing there. You see Zach Ertz, the tight end there, just time that play well. Once again, eyes are in the backfield for Wake Forest secondary. Have no chance to respond.
Associate head coach Greg Roman, offensive coordinator David Shaw, going for the perfect game on offense tonight. 8 for 8.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Kingsford Charcoal. For more football fun, play Kingsford's College Showdown on ESPN.com. And Best Western, the world's largest hotel chain.
Well, you know John McEnroe and John Elway, and there's a golfer here by the name of Woods for Stanford. 16 consecutive Directors' Cup trophies. That's the trophy given for overall performance in the athletic department, men's and women's sports. It's almost an Olympic Village some weekends out here at Stanford University. Solid return here for Chris Givens, out to near the 40-yard line. What is turning into a very long night for Wake Forest. All right, Brock, Wake is down by 45 points. This is not going according to plan for the Demon Deacons. What do you do now to try and make the second half productive if you're Wake Forest?
Well, these are still valuable opportunities for your true freshman quarterback. You run your entire system, even though you're facing now the backups for Stanford defensively. This is going to be valuable film in the second half for Tanner to continue to learn and grow from.
And as Brock points out, most of the twos are now in there for Stanford. So Brandon Pendergrass, a positive gain on first down. Scoffle on the stop. Taylor Scoffle, senior from the Woodlands, Texas, the Houston area. Tanner Price, the lefty true freshman quarterback, still in the game for Wake. Checking to the sideline. Handing off to Pendergrass on the counter. Pendergrass has a first down into Stanford territory. It's Scoffle again on the stop, the backup free safety.
You'll hear quarterback coaches at the next level say, and Jim Grobe should say to a quarterback, just never throw a ball to throw a ball. Always hit a target. Always have an idea of what you want to do. I think that's a similar comparison here. You're not just running these plays to run it. You have got to, if you're Tanner in this offense, and life doesn't get any easier, is they've got to travel to Florida State and have Georgia Tech. So you've got to use these opportunities as learning chances for your entire team.
What looks to be a busted play, Price just gets out and dumps it away. Mentioned earlier that Jim Grobe, during his 10-year tenure at Wake Forest, has been in just about every football game they've played. One of those few blowouts was 52-7 back in 2004 at Miami. Stanford's 55 now sets a new high mark for an opponent scoring against the Jim Grobe Wake Forest team. That was also the worst loss of the Jim Grobe era at Wake Forest, 52-7. This obviously not a banner night to talk about the way Jim Grobe has elevated this Wake Forest program. They're getting thumped at Stanford. Well, in his 10 seasons, you have that 06 ACC title. First ACC championship since 1970. This is a young football team. Pendergrass rushes for a first down, straight up the gut against the Stanford D. Ed Reynolds makes a stop.
And it's a football team that's got to get bigger and stronger and faster. When you get blown out like this on the road and outclassed and the team scores 8 consecutive times, it's more than just schematic. And we have seen that tonight. Guys not able to get off blocks, just being manhandled on both sides. And these young guys have got to find a way to physically grow up.
Pendergrass on another counter picks up about 7 yards.
And the coaching staff talked about it. They knew coming into this game the challenge it would be. Anytime you get together with the coaches and they start talking about, well, we've got to create confusion and deception and we can't just line up and run it at them. You know that they know on film it's going to be a difficult challenge to come into this environment. And then when the home team does what they're supposed to do, as Stanford has tonight, and that's establish their will. That's not turn the ball over and penalize themselves and play as clean a game, then you get into these opportunities where it's just not competitive at 55-10.
Tanner Price breaks free. The first touchdown of the second half for Wake Forest, a 28-yard rush from Tanner Price.
There you go, young fella. That feels pretty good. Just a little zone read. You see the flow of the Stanford guys, not as disciplined as their starters were, and I guarantee you Vic Fangio and Randy Hart and that entire defensive staff, they're going to be very critical of these backups when they put that film on. Tanner Price takes advantage of the gaping hole, and he shows off a little bit of his speed.
So we talked about positive points for Wake Forest at the beginning of the drive. And that's exactly what Tanner Price gives them. Back on the farm, Stanford University, Stanford, California. That's Hoover Tower, home of the Hoover Institution, where Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, is a fellow political science. She was at the football game earlier today, wishing Stanford best of luck. Squib kick hits a Stanford player. Fleener hauls it in. Andrew Luck, impressive numbers. Brock, what stands out to you from Luck's performance?
Well, let's look at this in 6 different ways. First of all, you're going to see the throw on the move, the perfect fundamentals of squaring the shoulder. I talked about the quick release, the ball out of his hands. Like this one a lot, facing the pressure, seeing that blitz coming, standing strong. What about the awareness? Oh, you want to run a corner blitz at me? That's fine. I'll hit my outlet. And this, as I said, when you compare him to a Nick Foles and a Blaine Gabbert, the other guys of his size and prototypical size, his ability to tuck it and run, and then lastly, all those intangibles, the leadership, encouraging his guys. You know he's going to be encouraging Alex Lucas, who's now come into the game. He'll be giving him instruction through this entire second half.
Wilkerson, the first down carry, is the senior from Bannockburn, Illinois. Alex Lucas into the game in relief of Andrew Luck after Luck's 5 touchdown night, 4 passing, 1 rushing. And still there's Andrew Luck over there helping coordinate the offense and signal in the plays for Alex Lucas, the backup QB. Lucas is going to scramble and now dump for a completion. Stanford first down. Let's check in with Wendy. Top quarterbacks in college football. Case Keenum for the University of Houston. What a big win for UCLA. First win of the season. They go to Texas next week to the UCLA Bruins. Flag down on this play for Wilkerson. But how critical a win is that for UCLA to just get one in the W column?
It's never a must win at this stage of the season, but when you look at their schedule and what's ahead for UCLA.
Holding. Number 86 on the offense. 10-yard penalty. Maine's first down.
As you talked about, heading down to Austin next weekend to face the Longhorns, you could not be 0-3 if you're Rick Neuheisel trying to install a new system, a new offense, the pistol offense. They've gone through their growing pains through the first couple weeks of this season, so a very good win for them. Hopefully instills some confidence. Good for the Pac-10, one they could not afford to lose today.
Well, the Pac-10 trying to close out strong here at Stanford with a commanding lead over Wake Forest. Arizona's trying to hold off Iowa. UCLA gets that win over Houston at the Rose Bowl tonight. Washington thumped earlier today by Nebraska. Cal beaten by Nevada, but Brock earlier gave the league a B+. There's a fumbled snap. Lucas just has to jump on top of it. It'll be a loss of about 3.
And that could be subject to change depending on whether or not Mike Stoops in Arizona can really take their program to the next level. They had a nice season a year ago. You finished second. You went down to USC late in the year, and here just as some undisciplined play with the backups on defense. I don't know if backup center Khalil Wilkes knew that his quarterback was in the shotgun that time as that ball goes straight in the air. That would be an enormous win for Mike Stoops against a Kirk Ferentz-led Iowa team that I think many regard, especially defensively, maybe one of the best front sevens in all the country.
Second and long. Lucas pressured again. Lucas tries a stiff arm, slips out of a tackle. Nice job scooting away from Matt Woodleaf. Alex Lucas.
Lucas can do that. He was at a 47-yard run earlier in the year against Sacramento State, and he's an athletic guy. Tore up his knee a season ago and has come back from that ACL injury, and I guarantee you Alex Lucas is looking over there at that bench and looking over at Andrew Luck, and when you have a guy play at the level that Andrew plays at, you have got to come in the game as well and try to perform. You know, you're one snap away if something were to happen to Andrew, and this is your chance to show Jim Harbaugh and this offensive staff that I can run this system as well.
Lucas scrambling on third down. Pass is incomplete. Well, Jake Locker, Andrew Luck, the two big-name Pac-10 quarterbacks, 2 very different days today.
And 2 very different defenses, to be fair to Jake Locker. Nebraska's secondary, and as suffocating as they were today on the University of Washington receivers, did not help Jake Locker at all. And the one issue when you look at these 2 guys, when you just compare those 2 very specifically.
Play, personal foul, 21 on the offense, 15-yard penalty. It will be 4th down.
there's really two things that jump out at you. Number one, you talked about Oliver Luck and Andrew Luck growing up with his dad, an NFL quarterback, and playing at a big program down in Texas and understanding the passing game and all the mechanics. And Jake Locker came from a little small town near the Canadian border running Pop Warner football and had a huge learning curve to try to understand the passing game and to grow in the passing game. He's had different systems there, whereas Andrew's had Jim Harbaugh for the duration. So I think that's number one. And then secondly, it's just accuracy. Andrew is a much more naturally accurate passer. You saw that when he hit the helmet at the mothership back at ESPN headquarters.
Fumble on the punt. Brown bobbles it, but Wake recovers.
That just continues to be an area where Jake's going to have to improve. And today against, like I said, one of the best secondaries in Nebraska, if you are inaccurate, you're going to get intercepted and have lots of problems and end 4 of 20 passing.
ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball and the hunt for October continues tomorrow night. And the White Sox against Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell, part of Lee Jeans, the hunt for October on ESPN and ESPN3.com at 8 Eastern Time. Blitz coming. Tanner Price reads it, flings it to the sideline, and that's Chris Givens making the grab. A couple of Lone Star State quarterbacks here. Tanner Price, the true freshman from Austin's Westlake High School. We had Andrew Luck, the redshirt sophomore from Stratford High School in Houston, Texas. And one of the things that everyone says about a true freshman like Tanner Price, when you play in front of 15, 20,000 people in a state championship game like they did, more like 35, 40,000 people, they are more prepared. Obviously, it's different on the road against the top 25 team, but more prepared coming out of systems like that.
Sure, and you're seeing Jake Heaps at BYU, Rob Bolden at Penn State, true freshmen, not redshirt freshmen like Andrew Luck was a year ago, where you have a year to get seasoned and learn a system and grow within it. You're talking about true freshmen last year playing under Friday night lights, and then this year, as Rob Bolden learned last week at Penn State, having to go to Tuscaloosa and play. As prepared as you are, and in big environments you play in Texas, there's still no substitute for this experience and these reps at this level.
Close to a first down. Let's check in with Wendy.
And we check in back out in the desert. Lone top 25 matchup of the day. Ricky Stanzi to Marvin McNutt. Iowa has trailed from the outset of this one. That pulls the Hawkeyes within 6, though. 47 seconds later. Less than a minute between these two scores. Nick Foles intercepted by Broderick Benz. This game over on ESPN, Iowa misses the extra point to keep it tied at 27.
Oh, time for those Cats to bear down in Tucson. Nick Foles, a former Austin Westlake quarterback, as is Drew Brees, as is Tanner Price, the Wake Forest QB.
Wake Forest.
Who has to take a timeout here. Right up the road from Stanford, California, in San Francisco, Monday Night Football. Frank Gore and the Niners against Drew Brees, that Austin Westlake product at quarterback for the Saints. Monday Night Football on ESPN Monday, 8:30 Eastern. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. So even though Drew Brees and Nick Foles preceded him, it was Tanner Price who has the record, 6,364 yards. He actually attended Stanford's camp. Most coaches played a little coy when you ask them about guys and did they offer, and Jim Harbaugh said, no, we loved this kid. In fact, when Wake Forest knew that he was coming to Stanford's camp, Wake offered him the day before Stanford's football camp arrived. So they snatched him away. Of course,
yeah, and Tanner also looked at a redshirt freshman and Andrew Luck and said, I wonder when exactly I'm going to be playing college football.
Josh Harris stretched out there.
Made the decision to come to Wake Forest and gets thrown right in the fire. And really gets thrown into this fire because the backup Ted Stakaitis hurts his hand a week ago. Tanner comes into the game against Duke after going 1 of 7 week 1 against Presbyterian and really caught fire. 3 touchdown passes, a touchdown run. You see some of the arm talent. Arm strength's not the issue. Timing, accuracy, anticipation. Those are all areas he's going to continue to grow as a passer, but they sure like his skill set.
Keeps it on 2nd down, but shoved back, so 3rd down upcoming. one of the reasons why Tanner Price was able to come in and compete for the job. The Westlake offense, Darren Allman's offense, runs some of the similar principles with sweeps and running backs split out as inside receivers. So Tanner Price had a pretty good handle on what Wake Forest wants to do offensively.
Look at so many of these freshman kids now. There's so many camps, so much instruction, so many 7-on-7 passing leagues throughout the spring and summer, and all of that work. And you really like some of the fundamentals that Tanner brings.
He'll tuck it on 3rd down and slide for a Wake Forest first down.
He understands when to get down and protect himself as well. When I say those fundamentals, a lot of times when you make that step from the high school level to the college level, the game is so much faster, and we've talked about that tonight. So when you have wasted movement, many times you'll see freshmen come in, and certainly the ones that are going to redshirt, and they've got a long delivery, pronounced delivery. They've got wasted movement in their drop. Tanner's pretty clean.
Price takes a hit, glancing blow, gain of 5 on first down.
And I like Jim Harbaugh in that story with us, said, yeah, they offered him right before he comes out. We offer him because he's smooth. I like a lot of it. In fact, Jim Harbaugh said they have never offered a quarterback who has not attended their camp. And I thought that was a pretty good little coaching point and lesson that, yeah, film is one thing, but I want to see the kid. Now, Jim understanding that quarterbacking is much more than just film. I want to see how he carries himself and conducts himself and leads others and competes in camp. They really liked him. Disappointed they didn't land him, and obviously Wake Forest gained long term.
Harris near a first down. I spoke with the 5th-year senior wide receiver Marshall Williams for Wake Forest earlier this week, and he said he texted Tanner Price as soon as he committed and told him, be ready to compete for that quarterback job as soon as you get here. They liked what they saw out of Tanner Price on film and when he was on campus, and sure enough, that's exactly what Tanner Price did. He came in prepared to compete for the quarterback job, and he's just the 3rd true freshman to start a game for a bowl subdivision team this year. Now leading the Wake Forest offense against the 2nd unit for Stanford. Touchdown drive the last time. Josh Harris has a first down here. Wake moving the football against the 2nd unit for Stanford.
Good look at Josh Harris there. He also just a redshirt freshman. You see that littered across this lineup. Some experience at wide receiver, which will help Tanner as this season moves along, but a lot of young pieces for Jim Grove down the road.
Campanero gets it on the sweep, and another positive gain, moving the chains for Wake Forest. 11-yard pickup for Campanero, another redshirt freshman. True freshman playing on the field for Wake Forest has been a rarity. Part of Jim Grove's philosophy is using those red shirts liberally, trying getting players not only more physically mature, but more well-versed in the system that Wake Forest uses on both sides of the football. 9 straight rushing plays for Wake Forest. And now finally a pass. Swing it to Danny Dimbry, but it's incomplete. Barry Browning in coverage, the true freshman cornerback for Stanford.
I think worth pointing out how brutal this trip is. There's a reason the Wake Forest has never made their way to California. And this 8:15 kickoff, 11:15 when this game started. You're well past midnight on these guys' body clocks. Another challenge to go along with some of the physical mismatches tonight.
Reverse from Wake Forest. Leading to the touchdown, it's Campanero into the end zone. His first career touchdown. For the redshirt freshman from Clarksville, Maryland, a 22-yard touchdown for Campanero.
And similar to the earlier touchdown run, just some misdirection, and Stanford's backups getting some opportunities and some reps, but lose and contain. And Campanero takes advantage of, once again, Stanford a little bit undisciplined with their number 2s in the game.
The game appears to be decided in Stanford's favor, but momentum for Wake Forest. Back-to-back touchdown drives. Campanero has his first career touchdown, so The Demon Deacons trying to fight their way back after Andrew Luck had a stellar quarterback performance. Here's some of the other best quarterback performances from the day.
Yeah, Ryan Mallett was very solid. Anytime you go down at the end of the game, that's where a lot of times where you want to judge quarterbacks and what they're made of, what kind of metal they have. Game on the line, game tied. Georgia had come back to tie it up. Ryan Mallett and that offense drove it right down the field. Denard Robinson been one of the great stories of college football. Shoelaces, right? Doesn't tie the shoes, has the Velcro. We saw that this morning on game day, and just a real physically gifted guy that fits Rich Rodriguez's system. And don't forget about TCU and Andy Dalton. He's played a lot of football down at TCU, and boy, 21 of 23. You can't get much more efficient than that.
Andrew Luck, not a bad day. 17 of 23. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Over 300 yards total offense.
So 10 touchdowns to 0 interceptions this season, coming off a freshman year, 13 to 4. So 23 touchdowns to 4 interceptions to begin his career for the Cardinal.
Manum on the kick return for the Cardinal across the 30-yard line. He is tripped up as he crosses the 30.
Jim Harbaugh would like to see nothing more than about a 14-play, 11-minute drive, 14 different runs, and chew off about 10 to 12 minutes of this clock. And I'm going to guess you're going to see some power. You're going to see some ISO. He wants to see his backup, Alex Lucas, perform. You don't want to see the bungled snaps and fumbled snaps and some of the issues that some of the number 2s have had tonight.
Lucas gives to Wilkerson. Wilkerson picks up about 5. We head to the 4th. 19th ranked Stanford trying to close out a dominant win over Wake to go to 3-0. All the numbers were positive for Wake Forest coming into this game against Stanford, but those numbers have been thrown in reverse by the Cardinal.
Able to get that run game going early, and look at the efficiency. Touchdown on the first 8 drives for Stanford.
Start of the 4th quarter at Stanford, 55-24. Already more points on the board than any Jim Grobe Wake Forest team has allowed during his 10-year tenure. And now the Cardinal trying to use that ground game to run the clock and run their record to 3-0 for the first time since 2001.
This is one of the true freshmen. You just see Wilkerson 32 running off that they really like. A young kid that's physical, just trying to continue to learn the game and the little details of pass protection. It's not all about just running and getting those yards. Once he learns some of those nuances to play in the position, you certainly like his 6'1", 220-pound frame.
Manum now in a tailback, and he takes the first down carry. Speaking of guys that Jim Harbaugh thinks has a bright future, they said Uswe Manum. I mean, he's listed 5'10", 184. He told us yesterday, I think he's stronger than we initially gave him credit for. They were thinking of a Manum as just kind of a scat back, but they like the way that he has handled the pounding that he's taken between the tackles as well.
If you're going to play running back at Stanford, then you're going to run ISO and you're going to run power. First 2 plays, ISO, ISO. And all that is an isolation play. Your fullback on the linebacker, man-on-man blocking up front. The power play is very similar. You just pull a guard. If you're going to come here to play running back for Jim Harbaugh, you better learn those 2 plays early.
A Manum first down into Wake territory as we check in with Wendy Nix.
And we check in with number 9 Iowa and number 24 Arizona. When we last left you over on ESPN, tied at 27. Nick Foles to Bug Wright makes it 34-27. Under 3 minutes to play in this one.
Arizona trying to up that Pac-10 resume towards the end of the college football weekend. So, Brock, we talked about the grade for the Pac-10. You said B+ if Arizona can beat Iowa. Now it's Wildcats back on top. Stanford here with a commanding performance against Wake Forest out of the ACC. Where does the grade stand right now?
Well, I think B+ if Arizona can hold on to win this, because you don't like to see what happened up in Seattle with Nebraska completely dominating the Huskies, as did Nevada, California last night. Now, if Arizona can hold on and win this, yeah, I give that a B+. If they can't, and Mike Stoops doesn't have that defining win, which I think this will be for a non-conference victory for their program, I think that grade could fall all the way to a C+. That's how big this one matchup is, I think, perception-wise on the national level.
The Arizona-Iowa game, the only matchup between top 25 programs this season. This week, I should say. Lucas on the roll. Completes on second down to Patterson.
And does that make sense to you when I say a statement game for a program? And last year, got a chance to call that Arizona-USC game, and I felt at that point that maybe that was the impetus for Mike Stoops and their program to get to second place in the Pac-10. You get to the Holiday Bowl, and then all that comes crashing down as Ndamukong Suh and that defense dominated them. So this, perception-wise, to me was a huge game and is a huge game for Arizona.
Let me ask you about Stanford. I mean, there are designs for a Rose Bowl season. Stanford fans certainly think this can be a special Stanford team. They haven't won a Rose Bowl game since 1972, only been to the Rose Bowl once during that time period. This is a commanding win. They're going to 3-0. How good is this Stanford team? As we see Lucas fake out the Wake Forest defense and go scrambling for a first down. I mean, is this a legitimate Rose Bowl Pac-10 title contender?
Here's your recipe always for success in any conference and any level of football. How do you play at the line of scrimmage? And we have seen that really on both sides. You saw it last week with just a thrashing of UCLA in the defensive front seven. You've seen it through all three games for your offensive line. Secondly, do you have a franchise quarterback? Do you have a guy playing that position that can be a difference maker and be a home run hitter with his pass and with his legs? You do. So I think those two components, your ability to just run it down people's throats, to play solid defense, and to have a difference maker at quarterback is going to give you a chance, yeah, I think long-term and through this season to compete.
Wilkerson picks up about 3. Flag on the play.
Illegal formation on the offense. 5 men in the backfield. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Some really high-profile games coming up for the Cardinal.
I'll be real curious to watch against Notre Dame, who's hung in there and has lost a couple very tough games today in overtime on a fake field goal to Michigan State. And then the beast of them all is traveling up to Autzen Stadium, and that's going to be a late game against an Oregon team that is red hot right now. I mean, that will be the defining moment very, very early in the season. And Stanford, the one thing they've not been really good at under Jim Harbaugh's tenure, just 6-11 in road games is Jim Harbaugh while at Stanford, and that will be a real test in just a couple weeks.
We plan on being there with Mike Bellotti rejoining us at Autzen Stadium, the winningest football coach in Oregon history. So Stanford, Notre Dame, Jimmy Clausen versus Andrew Luck next week. Last year's numbers. Jimmy Clausen is on to the NFL. Thank you. Toby Gerhardt, 205 rushing yards as Stanford beat Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame would like to have Jimmy Clausen back, don't you think?
There's a good shot of Brian Polian right next to Andrew Luck there. Brian Polian, the son of Colts GM Bill Polian, and Brian coached at Notre Dame, as did Randy Hart, defensive line coach for Stanford.
Stanford, that's their second charge timeout. This will also be a immediate timeout.
Follow the drive to the national championship on ESPN College Football Final. You'll see all the big plays, the shocking upsets, and the great escapes that happen every week on the drive to the national championship. All season long on College Football Final.
The show made by the nation is packing its bags for a Big Ten road trip. Oh yes, Sports Nation taking its characters and costumes and going to hang out with some of college football's most passionate fans. 4 days in Big Ten country, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. on ESPN2. And mark my words, the nation will never be the same.
Colin and Michelle in Big Ten Country next week. Partner, what do you say? Head on up to Columbus and join them. We'll be at the Horseshoe next week, huh?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, we saw one of the nation's top quarterbacks, Andrew Luck. Very different quarterback we'll see next week in Terrell Pryor with the Ohio State Buckeyes as they take on the Eastern Michigan Eagles, attempting to spring the upset. Lucas throwing pass batted and incomplete. Free safety Alex Fry knocks it away from Patterson.
A better drive here by Lucas and the backups at Stanford, using legs on the third down here, just a little bit late. Can you see the difference between an Andrew Luck and an Alex Lucas, the backup, holding on to that ball, trying to wait and see if the guy is open rather than anticipating that throw and getting it out on time. That Sports Nation deal would be pretty cool. I think I could do that. Traveling through Big Ten Country for the week, that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm going to give you a Karate Kid bandana, or I'm not sure the proper terminology, but I'm going to give you one of those to wear next week in celebration of the Sports Nation's trip through the Big Ten. There's a big one on the west side of the country next week. Oregon State versus Boise State. Game day will be there. Prime time on ABC. What do you think of the Beavers from Oregon State against Boise State?
That is going to be a hostile environment. I think Cal learned that when you went to Nevada, ratcheted up tenfold in Boise with game day there. The enormous nature of that game. Today, Boise once again blowing out Wyoming, 50-something to very little. Oregon State didn't play their best ball. Get the first down and grind away through. Oregon State didn't play their best ball today. Just a touchdown victory over Charlie Strong's Louisville team. But I can't imagine the buzz in Boise. Chris Peterson has built that thing from the ground level. He's stuck around. He's kept much of his staff in place. You could go ahead and drop Boise in any conference in America. They could come in this Pac-10. They'll go to the SEC. This team, with the speed, the depth, and the size that they have, the QB they have, I think they compete for a championship, and I don't care what conference you put them in this season.
Lucas tucks it and runs for a touchdown. Alex Lucas on the scramble. To the impressive offensive night for Stanford, a 15-yard rush.
I said Harbaugh wouldn't have minded about a 14-minute drive. I think he'll take 7 or 8 minutes, and a lot of it on the ground, and see a little bit of the burst. Knee brace off the ACL injury, the good speed from Lucas. One time, a top 12 high school quarterback in all of America, getting his opportunity to shine.
Two missed extra points from Nate Whitaker. Tough night for the kicker, but a great night for the Stanford offense.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Acura. The most innovative thinking you'll find in an Acura.
Playing football on the farm since 1892. A pair of national championships. Jim Plunkett won the Heisman Trophy in 1970. Cory Booker was a Rhodes Scholar in 1992. Carter Blackman with Brock Heward back here at Stanford Stadium, where it has been all Cardinal. Lavelle Jackson on the return to the 25 for Wake Forest, and a big hit on Jackson. We were discussing the Boise State versus Oregon State game next week. A lot of folks have pointed to that one as a huge one. Game day will be there. It'll be on ABC. But don't forget that Boise at the end of the season has to go to Nevada. And we saw what Colin Kaepernick is capable of Friday versus Cal.
Cal was the #1 defense in America statistically going into that game and had no answers. Much like Wake Forest tonight. And I told you the dilemma that Brad Lambert, the defensive coordinator, was in tonight. What do? Do you stack the box? Do you put bodies in there to try to stop this power run game and leave guys outside one-on-one? Colin Kaepernick is that guy. He is a defensive coordinator's nightmare. Been in that pistol system, unlike others that are trying to run it and incorporate it and build it. Colin's been there for 4 years. He played as a freshman. He has got that thing revving at full speed. when you can check at the line of scrimmage and audible and get to all of the different looks and options, everything they do, and very tough to stop.
Fumble of the football. Is Stanford on top? The Cardinal have it. Stakaitis was in at quarterback for Wake Forest. The fumble recovered. Chike Amajoy, the senior from San Bernardino, comes up with a fumble recovery.
That read option, we hear it all the time. You got to ride that fake at the mesh point, put that ball in the fullback or tailback's stomach there, and that time it hangs in there, kicks in the air. Stanford takes advantage of a negative play for Wake Forest.
Luck still a quarterback for Stanford in relief of Andrew Luck, who had 5 touchdowns on the night, 4 passing, 1 rushing. Direction of a new Stanford quarterback as well. As we check in with Wendy Nix.
It's official. We have a final score. Iowa and Arizona. Here's how it all went down. The Hawkeyes trailing by 7. Ricky Stanzi sacked by Justin Washington. That was all she wrote. Arizona pulls off the upset, 34-27.
How big is that, Brock?
Oh, it's enormous. And unlike Arizona State, I look at Arizona and Arizona State as teams over the years that have just found a way to kick those games away. And Arizona State did today. Just unable to finish, to make those plays at the end to seal that victory. Arizona was up big in that game. Iowa roars all the way back. And then for Nick Foles and Arizona to drive the length of the field, a little bit like Arkansas and Josh Mallett did. What a statement to everybody across the nation.
Josh Nunez is the new quarterback for the Stanford Cardinals. So even though Andrew Luck, had the star performance of the night, now he's in there rooting on all of the second and third string guys who are seeing the field now for Stanford.
How great is that smile, and how many times have we seen that over the last 2 weeks on the sideline? They talk about him being just a goof too, right? He's an architectural design engineer. He's got all those formulas in his head as well.
This is a Manum breaking a tackle inside the 10. A Manum fighting, shoved out short of the goal line, but he has a first down. And that's what Jim Harbaugh was talking about when he said may have underestimated this guy's strength. He can fight for yardage.
Hey, look at that committee they have, and each of them brings a little different gift. This is definitely the scat back with the most quickness and elusiveness, and as they get into Pac-10 play, to have that variety of running backs, not always a bad thing. As I said, and Jim Harbaugh told us last week, just Andrew Luck has the perfect personality of a quarterback. You just see the fun-loving nature. You see the seriousness and the execution. And Jim wondering what exactly is happening with that play clock.
First and goal. The give is to Andrew Stutz, and he has a touchdown. First of his Cardinal career.
A lot to smile over if you're Stanford, and what a miserable flight home this is going to be for Wake Forest, and a very difficult trip. Not just to come out here on a Thursday night. They're going to fly home. They're going to get back to Wake Forest about noon tomorrow. Stanford's going to start school Monday on a heck of a roll. First 3-0 start to a year and almost a decade here on the farm. Just a very one-sided affair this evening.
Whitaker boots that PAT through. Cardinal rolling. Andrew Luck, the star of the night for Stanford. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, but with 68 on the board, there have been offensive contributions from all over for the Stanford Cardinals. Campanero nears the 30 on the return for Wake Forest. Big weekend in the Pac-10 next week. California goes to Arizona. The Wildcats are undefeated coming off the win over Iowa. Oregon on the road at Arizona State, narrowly losing on the road today at Wisconsin. Then Stanford out of conference at Notre Dame, trying to beat the Irish again. And then the big one in Boise, Oregon State against Boise State. Game day will be there, ABC primetime. There's a penalty flag on the play after the carry from Harris.
Offsides on the defense, number 49. It's a 5-yard penalty. Maine's first down.
So the Pac-10 scoreboard is complete except for the final here. UCLA over Houston at the end of the night. Arizona over Iowa at the end of the night after that disappointing loss for Arizona State and Wisconsin. I mean, the blocked PAT at the end of the game at Camp Randall. An unblocked defender forces a fumble, scooped by the Stanford Cardinal. Brent and Tiz came unblocked to force this fumble.
Second down.
Oh, they're going to rule Josh Harris down,
yeah, and
so no fumble.
Yeah, and I think that's the right call. You saw the knee clearly hit the ground, and back out there. Here you go. Look at Andrew Luck does not stop bleeding, does he? You think he enjoys, these guys enjoy this start and all that hard work? And I know school starts and mechanical engineering classes begin on Monday. This was a pretty good, just like last week, that statement, that shutout against UCLA. It's just been a thorough beating tonight.
Stanford is challenging the ruling on the field that the runner was down.
Wow.
Don't you know the kids start school Monday, Jim? We'll take a couple looks at this. I think that knee is, in our opinion, definitely down before that ball comes out.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. Stanford is charged with a timeout and will have no further challenges.
You can remember last year. What's your deal? What's my deal? You remember the little conversation that Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll had at midfield, and I'm sure there's probably part of Jim Grove tonight just wondering exactly why at 68-24 do you really need to? Is this the time and the place to challenge a fumble call with third stringers in the game? But you know what? Jim Harbaugh is going to be who he is. He's an edgy guy. He's brought that edge to the farm here. They've changed much of the culture and the way they play the game physically.
And you made the point, at least it's third stringers. This was not a...
Hey, Jim is, I think we know this about him, having spent some time around him this year and watched and really his body of work here. He's going to go about, with injuries and otherwise, he's going to go about conducting the business the way he wants to do it, very clearly his way. And if that means challenging a fumble at this juncture in the game, he's going to do it.
68 points allowed, the most since 1995. Stanford scored 68 in the opener in 1968 against San Jose State. So this is the most since 68 with 68 on the board. Third string quarterback for Wake Forest in the game. It's Brendan Cross, redshirt freshman from Chattahoochee High School in Alpharetta, Georgia.
To be fair, they took the starters out very early in the third quarter. So by no means would I look at any of this game and think that Jim Harbaugh has run this up. I mean, it could be uglier than even this tonight.
Brendan Cross, the son of former 49er Randy Cross, the third string quarterback, reaching for a first down as Wake Forest converts a fourth down, still with 4:16 to go in this game that has been out of hand. Really a 41-10 score at the half. Stanford scored touchdowns on its first 8 possessions. Wake Forest could do nothing to slow the Stanford offense, whether it was through the air with Andrew Luck and Chris Owusu or on the ground with Tyler Gaffney and the big offensive line leading the way. Fullback Bohannon on the carry for Wake. Chris Berman hosts ESPN's popular 2-hour pregame show. Analysts Tom Jackson, Keyshawn Johnson, Ron Jaworski, Mike Ditka, and NFL insiders Chris Mortensen and Adam Schechter. Sunday NFL Countdown presented by IBM on ESPN Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And Monday Night Football just up the road in San Francisco. Niners and the Saints. Sweep goes to Campanaro. No gain on second down. Third down coming.
Pretty dominating effort tonight. I'll be real curious if this weekend was a statement game for the conference, right? Some big battles across conference lines with the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Pac-10 today. Next week is as well. And this Stanford team is maybe flown under the radar just a little bit. Had the dominating effort against UCLA. I think there's many that have been a little bit concerned about their defense and how good are they. They're a nice story. Where's Toby Gerhart? I think next week they're going to make a statement on the national stage, and I'd be very surprised if they don't go into South Bend and physically impose their will, because Brian Kelly's he's at stage one. He's where Jim Harbaugh was 4 years ago. He's trying to get his pieces in and his guys in and build it the right way. Jim Harbaugh's got this program going in the right direction. He's got the beef up the middle. He's got very sound teachers defensively that have put his guys in right positions. And I would not be surprised next week to see Stanford physically really handle the Irish.
Meanwhile, for Wake Forest, it's at Florida State, a place that Wake went from 1959 to 2006 without winning in Tallahassee. Now, Florida State only entered the league, the ACC, in the 90s, but Wake Forest won there in 06. They handed Bobby Bowden his worst ever home loss in 2008. Wake Forest next weekend will try to make it 3 in a row in Tallahassee against the Florida State Seminoles. But for Wake Forest, I mean, the players, I talked to Marshall Williams, a senior, he was very aware of how the perception of the ACC has really taken some tough hits early on in this season. They wanted to come out here and make a statement for Wake Forest and the ACC. Instead, it's another tough loss for the Atlantic Coast Conference, just like Virginia Tech losing to Boise State, then losing to James Madison. Georgia Tech losing at Kansas. UNC, North Carolina, the Tar Heels are now 0-2 on the season.
You know, I like one thing. We haven't talked about this tonight. One other element with Jim Harbaugh from our production meeting, when we talked about what they hang their hat on and their identity and how they build a program. And so many of these systems, like a Wake Forest, are incorporating this spread and this option and playing basketball on grass. And Jim Harbaugh has gone about it very differently at Stanford. And in 1 year, as he said, he recruited 3 of the top tight ends in America, and everybody thought he was crazy. He brings in fullbacks, and he plays a much more traditional game of football. And I think in some ways it's very advantageous, just from a supply and demand standpoint, that, you know what, 20 years ago, you were competing with Ohio State and Michigan and many other schools for those top-notch fullbacks and top-notch tight ends. Now they're more readily available, and he's snatching them up. And has really, as I said, over and over again tonight, just established a physical element that is so critical when you can dominate the line of scrimmage as they have through these first 3 weeks. You add in a top-notch quarterback, you become a very dangerous team to compete with.
Now, that's something Jim Grobe talked to us about, saying, hey, when you have a big physical offensive line, that toughens up your own defense because they're pounding on each other. It becomes a mentality of the football team. That was one of the things that Jim Grobe was concerned about going into tonight. Obviously, that has played out on both sides of the football. I mean, Brock, you said from the very get-go, it was obvious who the physical aggressor was in this football game.
Yeah, you just go down on the field and pregame as well and look at the eye test. And you know, Wake Forest has a challenge at times in recruiting. That's why Jim Grobe has had to develop these guys and not play these freshmen. But you have Nikita Whitlock, a 5'11", 235-pound D tackle, going against the guys that Stanford has up front. You know you're going to be in for a long night. If you don't get the turnovers and you don't make any plays on the ball and you don't tackle, then it gets really ugly, and that's exactly what happened to the Deacon Demons tonight.
Stanford scores 68 for the first time since 1968. Cardinal will go to 3-0 for the first time since 2001. Stanford scores touchdowns on its first 8 possessions tonight. They led 41-10 at the half. 535 yards of total offense. 10 touchdowns, 1 punt for the Stanford Cardinal offense tonight.
Ryan Mallett, start including him. Denard Robinson, start including him in some very early Heisman conversations. Kellen Moore at Boise State. And I think Andrew Luck over the next 3 weeks. Notre Dame, at Oregon, USC. He's going to start to really make his case on the national stage.
Zeros on the clock. Past 11:30 on the West Coast. Andrew Luck, the star of the night. 5 touchdowns. Jim Harbaugh, Stanford Cardinal, a commanding win over ACC. After the Demon Deacons beat him in Winston-Salem last year, it's a 68-24 thumping Stanford over Wake Forest this year. Coming up next, college football primetime. It's Clemson versus Auburn. For Brock Hewitt and our entire crew, I'm Carter Blackburn. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Stanford wins it 68-24, a perfect 3-0 for the